Senate will come to order. Those not having privilege of the floor will please vacate the chamber. Those in the gallery and those on the floor will please rise. We're led in prayer by the Reverend Jim Butcher of Madison Baptist Church in Madison, West Virginia. Please remain standing after the prayer as the senator from Wetzel leads us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Reverend.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we're grateful this morning for those who are willing to serve, and we pray for your wisdom to be upon them. Father, we continue to pray for our country that civility and maturity would rule the day. Father, we ask your blessing. We ask your guidance. We pray in Jesus' name, and amen.
Amen. Senator from Wetzel.
Will those on the floor and our guests in the gallery please join us in the pledge to the greatest nation on earth. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reading in the journal.
West Virginia Legislature Senate Journal, February 15th, 2022. The Senate met at 11:01 a.m. Senator Blair, Mr. President, in the chair.
Senator from Morgan requests unanimous consent that further reading in the journal is dispensed with and the journal be approved. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Further reading in the journal is dispensed with and the journal is approved. Introduction to guest. On behalf of the Senate, it is my pleasure to welcome honorary pages for the day. Please stand and be recognized as your name is called. As guest is the senior senator from the 4th, Andrew Francis. As guest is the senator from Boone, Hillary Gore and Caleb Dempsey. As guest is the senator from Logan, Natalie Blankenship. As guest is the junior senator from the 8th, Laylee Hunt, Natalie Hill, and Garth Parsons. As guest is the senator from Greenbrier, Emily Harlan and Abby Harlan, and guest is the senior senator from the 6th, Gail Carilla. Will the Senate please make them feel welcome? Are there further introductions? Senior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Senate, it is your pleasure and mine to introduce our doc of the day. In the rear of the chamber, we have with us Dr. Howard Lafferty, good friend of mine. He's down in Madison, West Virginia, practicing at Boone Memorial. The Senate wouldn't give him a warm welcome. Mr. President, I also have one other important, is the son of our doc of the day. I'm pleased to introduce Liam Lafferty. He's 9-year-old at Ruth Lawn Elementary in Kanawha County. He's up here somewhere, if he wouldn't mind standing. There he is. Let's Senate give you a warm welcome.
Senior senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the honor of introducing to the Senate today Cinda Francis. She is the mother and the chaperone of our page from Ravenswood High School here with us, Andrew Francis. So Cinda, she's here somewhere. Stand, please, and the Senate, please make her welcome. Thank you. And also in the North Gallery over here, I have actually a close friend, and it's on my behalf and the senator from Marion. He's the chair of the Chamber of Commerce for Marion County. He's also a very close friend of mine as well, who's here kind of shadowing today, Jonathan Board. Jonathan, if you'd stand, the Senate, please make him welcome. And we also have in the President's Gallery Terry Cox and Rich Sutphin, if you guys would stand back here. Terry is the Chair of Finance for the West Virginia Rural Health Association, and Rich Sutphin is with him, also the Executive Director for the West Virginia Rural Health Care Association. Please make them welcome.
Junior senator from the 8th.
Mr. President, on your behalf and on behalf of the senior senator from the 8th, we have seated in the President's Gallery the chaperone for Garth Parsons, his grandmother, Bonnie Darby. If she could stand up and if the Senate can make her feel welcome. Also, Mr. President, we have seated in the President's Gallery a large, as the President knows, today is West Virginia State University Day, so we have a large delegation from West Virginia State University in the President's Gallery. If they could all stand and if the Senate could make them feel welcome.
Further introduction, Senator from Boone.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Senator from Logan, we're very pleased to have with us today, seated in the President's Gallery, the chaperone of our honorary pages from Logan High and Mingo Central High School, the City Manager of Logan, Amber Miller Belcher. If she'd stand, the Senate make her welcome. Also, Mr. President, we have in the gallery to my left the daughter of Pastor Jim Butcher, a star athlete and a great academic star as well. Jenna Butcher, his daughter, if she'd stand, and the Senate make her welcome.
Senator from Logan.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Senator from Boone and myself, in the President's Gallery, we have a chaperone that's honoring the Logan High School, Natalie Blankenship's mother, Amy Blankenship. If she would stand and the chamber make her feel welcome. There she is.
Further introductions, Senator from Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of my junior senator from the 12th, it's my honor to introduce Iris Carrilla, who's come with our page today, Gail Carrilla. Would you please stand and make her welcome?
Senator from Greenbrier.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very happy to have with us today Emmy and Abby's mom, Terry Harlan. If Terry will please stand. She's not only the mother of two of our pages today, she's the administrator at Fayette County Health Department and one of my personal heroes for all her hard work over the last 2 years. Will the Senate please make Terry Harlan feel welcome?
Are there further introductions? Communications from the House.
The Clerk of the House announced the passage by that body of committee substitute for House Bill 2598, modifying the inspection requirements and the definition of an above-ground storage tank.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Energy, Industry, and Mining.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4004, relating to limiting an abortion to 15 weeks gestation.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Health and Human Resources, then the Committee on the Judiciary.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4005, relating to fetal body parts.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Health and Human Resources and the Committee on the Judiciary.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4126, authorizing certain agencies of Department of Health and Human Resources to promulgate legislative rules.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
House Bill 4307, increase some benefits payable from Crime Victims Compensation Fund.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary and then the Committee on Finance.
House Bill 4396, reducing federal adjusted gross income relating to tolls for travel on West Virginia toll roads paid electronically.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
House Bill 4410, specifying allocation, apportionment, and treatment of income of flow-through entities.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4461, relating to the consolidation of all administrative fees collected by the agency into the existing Tax Administration Services Fund.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4484, declaring certain claims against agencies of the state to be moral obligations of the state.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Finance. Communications from the Executive.
There are none.
Reports from standing committees.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration Senate Bill 213, establishing licensed professional counseling compact. Now on second reading, having been referred to the Committee on Health and Human Resources on January 24th, 2022, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass, respectfully submitted, Michael J. Maroney, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration committee substitute for Senate Bill 221, establishing occupational therapy compact, and reports back committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the revised committee substitute do pass, respectfully submitted, Michael J. Maroney, Chair.
Report be received.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration Senate Bill 274 relating to number of child protective service workers in counties and reports back a committee substitute for same with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Michael J. Maroney, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Finance has had under consideration Senate Bill 414 creating special revenue account for statewide records management program and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass. Respectfully submitted, Eric J. Tarr, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Rules has had under consideration committee substitute for Senate Bill 438 relating generally to West Virginia Security for Public Deposits Act and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass. Respectfully submitted, Craig Blair, Chair ex officio.
Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our question is consent that the bill be taken up for immediate consideration and read a first time.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. The clerk will read the bill first time.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 438 relating generally to West Virginia Security for Public Deposits Act. First reading of the bill.
Bill will be advanced.
Your Committee on Energy, Industry, and Mining has had under consideration Senate Bill 480 relating to DEP Office of Oil and Gas and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on Finance. Respectfully submitted, Randy E. Smith, Chair.
Report will be received. Senior Senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that the second reference to finance be dispensed. This bill has no impact on the general revenue portion of the budget. The bill will increase funds to be deposited into a special revenue account. This bill simply increases the spending authority.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. So ordered.
Your Committee on Government Organization has had under consideration Senate Bill 489 clarifying amount of Deputy Sheriff annual salary increase and reports back a committee substitute for same with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Mark R. Maynard, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Finance has had under consideration Senate Bill 494 creating Broadband Carrier Neutral and Open Access Infrastructure Development Fund and reports back a committee substitute for same with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Eric J. Tarr, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Education has had under consideration Senate Bill 529 encouraging additional computer science education in West Virginia schools and Senate Bill 541 requiring homeschooled child's academic assessment be submitted by a certain date and reports the same back with the recommendation that they each do pass. Respectfully submitted, Patricia Puertas Rucker, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Government Organization has had under consideration Senate Bill 530 encouraging public-private partnerships in transportation and reports back a committee substitute for same with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on Finance. Respectfully submitted, Mark R. Maynard, Chair.
Report will be received and under the original double committee reference, the bill will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 534 clarifying that secondary source on insurance is not controlling authority and reports back a committee substitute for same with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 536, clarifying statutes on possessing, manufacturing, importing, and transporting fentanyl in West Virginia, and reports back a committee substitute for same with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on Finance. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
Report will be received and under the original double committee reference, the bill will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Your Committee on Natural Resources has had under consideration Senate Bill 554, transferring functions of West Virginia Solid Waste Management Board to DEP, and reports back a committee substitute for same with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on Finance. Respectfully submitted, Bill Hamilton, Chair.
Report will be received and under the original double committee reference, the bill will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Your Committee on Banking and Insurance has had under consideration Senate Bill 568, requiring insurance plans to provide underwriting information to insureds, and reports back a committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Michael T. Azinger, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Finance has had under consideration Senate Bill 571, declaring certain claims to be moral obligations of the state, and reports back a committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Eric J. Tarr, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 573, providing system where magistrates shall preside in certain instances outside normal court hours, and reports back a committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
The report will be received.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 575, ensuring that imposition of certain sexual offenses apply to persons working in juvenile facilities, and reports back a committee substitute for same, and Senate Bill 595, relating to Dangerousness Assessment Review Board, and reports back a committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the two committee substitutes do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
The report will be received.
Your Committee on Education has had under consideration Senate Bill 589, defining area of critical need and shortage for substitute bus operators, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass, but with the further recommendation that it first be referred to the Committee on Finance. Respectfully submitted, Patricia Partos Rucker, Chair.
Senator, be at ease for one moment. Senator from Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the bill be referred to the Committee on Finance.
I'm going to back this up for a second. The report will be received. Senator from Marshall. Senator from Marshall requests unanimous consent that the bill be referred to the Committee on Finance. Is there objection? Chair hears none. So ordered. Thank you.
Your Committee on Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 593, allowing Marshall University's Forensic Analysis Laboratory access and participation in West Virginia DNA database for certain purposes, and reports back a committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Military has had under consideration Senate Bill 598, establishing partnerships and aid for at-risk veterans to combat suicide, and reports back a committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Ryan W. Weld, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure has had under consideration Senate Bill 609, allowing DOH Commissioner to accept ownership of rented and leased equipment, and reports back a committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on Finance. Respectfully submitted, Charles H. Clements, Chair.
The report will be received. Senior Senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that the second reference to finance be dispensed. The provisions of this bill are revenue neutral and do not affect the state budget or impact taxpayers of West Virginia.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. So ordered.
Your Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure has had under consideration Senate Bill 611, removing cap on bidder's contract bond, and reports back committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles H. Clements, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure has had under consideration Senate Concurrent Resolution 27, naming the U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Harold William Schmidl Memorial Bridge, and reports back a committee substitute for same. And Senate Concurrent Resolution 38, naming the Cox Brothers Veteran Memorial Bridge, and reports back a committee substitute for same. With the recommendation that the two committee substitutes be adopted, respectfully submitted, Charles H. Clements, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration engrossed House Bill 4060, repealing outdated sections of code relating to health, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass. Respectfully submitted, Michael J. Maroney, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Government Organization has had under consideration engrossed committee substitute for House Bill 4333 relating to the sunset of the Board of Hearing Aid Dealers and Fitters, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass. Respectfully submitted, Mark R. Maynard, Chair.
Report will be received. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the bill be taken up for immediate consideration and read a first time.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. The clerk will read the bill first time.
Engrossed committee substitute for House Bill 4333 relating to the sunset of the Board of Hearing Aid Dealers and Fitters. First reading of the bill.
The bill will be advanced.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration engrossed committee substitute for House Bill 4369, update the telepsychology compact, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass. Respectfully submitted, Michael J. Maroney, Chair.
Report will be received. Reports from select committees.
There are none.
Introduction of bills. Senior Senator from the 17th. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that Senate Bill 647 through Senate Bill 659 be considered introduced, read by their titles, and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system.
Senior Senator from the 17th requesting unanimous consent that Senate Bill 647 through Senate Bill 659 be considered and introduced, read by their titles, and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system. Is there objection? Chair hears none. So ordered. Resolutions.
Senate Joint Resolution 10 by Senator Geffert, Equal Rights Amendment.
The resolution will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary and then the Committee on Finance.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 47 by Senator Grady, naming the Fire Chief Lee Thomas Memorial Bridge.
Under the rules of the Senate, the resolution will lie over one day.
Senate Resolution 30 by Senator Clements, designating February 17th, 2022 as Corrections Day.
Under the rules of the Senate, the resolution will lie over one day. Motions. Petitions.
There are none.
Senior Senator from the 17th.
Hey, Mr. President, I request unanimous consent to return to the fourth order of business.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Reports from standing committees.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 660, originating in committee, setting forth standard of care requirements for telehealth practice, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
Report will be received. Unfinished business.
Senate Resolution 28, designating February 16th, 2022 as West Virginia Rural Health Workforce Day at the Legislature.
Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration, committee reference be dispensed with, and the resolution be placed upon its adoption.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. The clerk will read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 28, designating February 16th, 2022 as West Virginia Rural Health Workforce Day at the Legislature.
Question is on adoption of the resolution. Is there discussion? Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll probably rise in support of this. You know, many of our state's residents choose to live in rural areas. So today we recognize the workforce that helps rural West Virginians access that health care. West Virginia Rural Health Workforce Day, it celebrates all the organizations, the healthcare providers, the broader healthcare workforce serving West Virginians living in rural areas. Often we get bogged down in issues and challenges related to recruiting and retaining a competent healthcare workforce in West Virginia, but today it's a celebration to thank you for all the work being done by our healthcare workforce to preserve that health care in our rural communities. As part of their mission, West Virginia Rural Health Association works to unite people, communities, and organizations to strengthen that rural health in West Virginia, and today we applaud their membership for continually working to do so and to create solutions for our most pressing rural health needs. I support the resolution. Thank you.
So further discussion, Senator from Boone.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also rise in support of the resolution. It is difficult to recruit and retain to rural West Virginia, and also it's great being a healthcare provider in rural West Virginia. The relationships you have with your patients is incredible. I have a quilt collection, probably second to none, and it truly is a great way of life. We have several programs, particularly I'd like to highlight HISTA, Health Science Technology Academy, that kind of targets students in middle school and high school that are leaning toward a STEM field and particularly a healthcare field, and then we go ahead and help them receive that education as long as they keep up their grade work. So we need many ideas. We need to study this rural workforce as we go forward. Again, we've got a lot of workforce shortages. We've got a lot of heavy lifting to do. But I certainly applaud the rural health folks. They loan money to providers to help them get established, et cetera. And again, West Virginia is a rural state, and if we're going to have access to health care, we're going to have to work on the rural aspect of it. Urge adoption.
Is there further discussion? If not, the question is on adoption of the resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the resolution adopted.
Senate Resolution 29, designating February 16th, 2022 as West Virginia State University Day.
Junior Senator from the 8th.
Mr. President, I request unanimous consent that the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration, committee reference be dispensed with, and the resolution be put upon its adoption.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Clerk will read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 29, designating February 16th, 2022 as West Virginia State University Day.
Question is on adoption of the resolution. Junior Senator from the 8th.
Yes, Mr. President, it is always a happy day to recognize West Virginia State University here in the Senate. It is also probably, if not the greatest, one of the greatest honors that the senator from 8th and I have in representing this fine university. The university was founded on March 17, 1891. It is one of 2 land-grant universities in the state, and their reach isn't just confined to Kanawha County, but their extension services go through all 55 counties of our wonderful state. They provide STEM education for over 5,000 students. They provide a Grand Families Health program to over 2,500 people. Their extension services help 20,000 people annually in our state. It is also the home of over 1,000 officers and generals that have served in our U.S. military. And its prominent alumni include the Tuskegee Airmen, NBA legend Earl Lloyd, NASA engineer and Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient Katherine Johnson, and the predecessor to the office I hold presently, former Senator Ed Gauch, who is the Secretary of Commerce. The university is woven in the very fabric of this area and our state. Like I said, it's a high honor to represent them, the home of the Yellow Jackets, West Virginia State University. And I ask the Senate to adopt this resolution, and I ask for a roll call. Thank you, Mr. President.
So further discussion. Yeas and nays have been demanded. Demand sustained. The demand is sustained. All those in favor of the resolution will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk close the machine. Ascertain the results on this question. 34 yeas, 0 nays, 0 absent and not voting. More than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the resolution adopted. Bills on third reading.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 86, creating criminal offense of sexual extortion. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senator from Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee substitute for Senate Bill 86 would add a single new section to the state code, and it goes into Chapter 61, Article 8B. Chapter 61, of course, is crimes. Article 8B delineates sexual offenses. This bill, let me back up and say that the state's regular extortion statute, general extortion statute, is in 61-2. It's Section 13. And the offense is committed when a person threatens someone's character, reputation, property, accuses or threatens to accuse him of a criminal offense to obtain money. You know, we think of that as blackmail. This new offense would be defined in Senate Bill 86. It was at the request of prosecutors who believed that some clarity is needed as to whether or not a separate criminal offense needed to be defined for conduct that we would all agree is despicable, but it would be when a person threatens someone else with the same sort of thing. I'm going to publish this horrible thing about you or nude pictures about you unless you engage in a sexual act. So it describes a felony in subsection A. A person who does that would be guilty of a felony. There's a subsection B in the act which makes it an enhanced felony when the conduct occurs by a supervisor or a person of trust in relation to the victim. So a person's boss who says, do this act or engage in this conduct, or I'm going to publish something horrible about you or pictures, that is an aggravated circumstance. Mr. President, I'd be happy to try to answer questions. Urge passage of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? Senator from Cabell.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to the Judiciary Chair for bringing this important bill to the floor. Once again, West Virginia will move to the forefront in terms of how we handle and treat our victims of sexual exploitation. We heard the story in Judiciary about the college administrator who called a young female student in his office and said, unless you are intimate with me, you will not be graduating. You will not be graduating. You will not be in a position where you will be in a position where you will have to explain to your parents why you have to go to school for another year because this particular class is not offered for another year. That kind of conduct is very, believe it or not, by people in authority is very common in our state and pervasive nationally. So that person now, there would be no remedy, but with this particular bill, that'll be a felony and the person will be held accountable. So I urge passage. Thank you.
Further discussion? If not, the question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk close the machine and ascertain the results on this question. 34 yeas, 0 nays, 0 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk has a title amendment.
Senator Trump moved to amend the title of the bill.
Question is on adoption of the title amendment. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the title amendment adopted. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 146 relating to interpretations of school laws. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senator from Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee substitute for Senate Bill 146 would amend a single section of our state code. It's in Chapter 18, which of course is education, Article 3, which governs the state superintendent of schools, and the amendment is to Section 6. Section 6 is an ancient statute. The editor's notes in our Mickey's version of the code show that the statute goes back to 1866. According to the annotations, it was amended in 1908 by acts of the legislature in 1919, and last 100 years ago, Mr. President, 1923 was the last amendment to this section of the code. Current law in this section of the code says this: at the request in writing of any citizen, teacher, school official, county or state officer, the state superintendent of schools shall give his interpretation of the meaning of any part of the school law or of the rules of the State Board of Education. That's the whole statute as it exists now, and it's existed in that fashion for at least a century. And you can we can understand why it's useful. You know, we have 55 counties, 55 county boards of education, 55 county superintendents. And it happens on occasion, not often, Mr. President, but it happens on occasion that the legislature could pass a bill that's not completely clear on some question, and it requires interpretation. So this law allows county teachers, superintendents to make a request for the state superintendent to render an interpretation of the law. How does this apply in this county? And it's useful because you don't want a law being applied 55 different ways in 55 different counties. That's the whole point of this statute. And what we learned in our consideration of the bill is that the superintendent's interpretations are compiled and codified and available as a resource to people who need to use them or know them. So the bill would add language to that statute, and it says, except when a state or federal court of competent jurisdiction has already rendered a contrary interpretation of the meaning of a part of the school law or the rules of the state board, county boards of education, county superintendents, employees of the county boards of education, and the West Virginia Public Employees Grievance Board shall give substantial deference to the state superintendent's interpretation of that part of the school law or the rules of the State Board of Education. So we're directing county superintendents, county boards, the grievance board to give substantial deference to an interpretation that's already been rendered by the state superintendent of schools on a question of interpretation. I'd be happy to try to answer questions, Mr. President. I urge passage of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? Senator from Harrison.
Will the gentleman from Morgan?
Will the senator from Morgan yield?
So
Senator yields.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And you know, I don't like this bill real well. I appreciate the amendment we got, but it was pointed out to me that the Attorney General has issued an opinion that his opinions trump those of the state superintendent. We didn't get that. We didn't know about that in committee. I was just wondering if we'd considered that, or we should consider that before passing this bill, or what effect you think that has on the Attorney General's opinion. I thank the senator from Harrison for the question. As noted, it wasn't something we discussed or considered in committee. My guess, and it really is little more than a guess, but my guess is that questions about the interpretation of school law are generally going to go to the superintendent of schools under this statute, and that maybe not so many to the Attorney General. As the senator from Harrison knows, however, interpretations rendered by the Attorney General, while they can be persuasive, do not have the full force and effect of law. It's almost a good reason to vote for the bill, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? If not, the question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk should prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine, ascertain the results on this question. 25 yeas, 9 nays, 0 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 415, capping severance tax collections and general revenue at specified percentage. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senior Senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. The purpose of this bill is to cap severance tax collections deposited into the general revenue at 8.5% and dedicate any excess above that amount to a special revenue account to be known as the Economic Development Growth Fund. Should the bill pass, it would result in a transfer of general revenue fund severance tax collections to the Economic Development Growth Fund in any fiscal year when the total general revenue fund deposit of severance tax collections is otherwise more than the amount equal to 8.5% of the total general revenue fund collections. The newly created fund would be used for the purpose of economic development as determined by the Office of Economic Development. The 8.5% figure represents the average collection on severance taxes related to and deposited in the General Revenue Fund over the past 10 years. The tax department is unable to accurately determine the amount of the transfer due to the uncertain nature of severance taxes. The committee substitute adopted by the Committee on Finance pushes the effective date from July 1st, 2022 to July 1 of 2024. Mr. President, this is essentially a smoothing mechanism for revenue estimates coming in off of severance tax, and it also provides the ability to diversify our economy moving forward, as we've been dealing with many more businesses looking to come into West Virginia and to have negotiation ability to compete with other states. This helps us to do that. I urge adoption of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? If not, the question for the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk should prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine, ascertain the results on this question. 34 yeas, 0 nays, 0 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill be made effective from passage and request unanimous consent that the roll call used on passage of the bill be used to make it so effective.
Senior Senator from the 17th moves that the bill be made effective from passage and request unanimous consent that the roll call used on the passage of the bill be used to make it so effective. Is there objection? Chair hears none. On this question, 34 yeas, 0 nays, 0 absent, not voting. More than two-thirds of those elected to the Senate having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill effective from passage. The clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Senate Bill 442 relating to West Virginia Public Employee Retirement System. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senior Senator from the 4th.
Mr. President, this bill would amend and react a couple sections of code, 510.14 and 510.30, as it relates to service credit, retroactive provisions, and the refund of accumulated contributions for certain members of the West Virginia Public Employees Retirement System. More specifically, the bill provides that members of State Teachers Retirement System in Tier 2 who become a member on or after July 1st, 2015 may only transfer to the Public Employees Retirement System Tier 2. This language serves to close a loophole currently present in the two retirement systems. In addition, there are some grammatical changes to be made and that focus mainly on changing the word he to the member. It would also, sections, and it's 510.30C would be deleted in its entirety. This section refers to refunds being made in equal installments as dictated by rules and regulations which may have been adopted by Board of Trustees. Lastly, under 510.30D, this would be a new paragraph wherein members leaving public employment and who are entitled to retire with an annuity payable by the retirement system, but who will be subject to an annuity reduction at any time due to the 105% provision contained in the code, the member may be paid upon written application their accumulated contributions. There is no fiscal impact on this bill, and accordingly, Mr. President, I urge passage of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? If not, question before the Senate, this shall the bill pass. All those in favor vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk should prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk close the machine, ascertain the results. On this question, 34 yeas, 0 nays, 0 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 443, including police and firefighter as electors of trustees for certain pension funds. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senior Senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee substitute for Senate Bill 443 would amend and react 822.18 of the West Virginia Code to include retired police officers and firefighters as eligible electors of trustees for certain pension funds. Currently, the law set forth does not permit police officers or firefighters to vote for trustees once they retire from service. This committee substitute would change the law and let those who are receiving funds from their pensions to have a voice in who the trustees are that are selected to serve for their respective funds. There's no fiscal impact of the bill, Mr. President. I urge passage.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? If not, the question for the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk should prepare the Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk close the machine, ascertain the results on this question. 34 yeas, 0 nays, 0 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present and voting having voted in affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 524, placing duties and functions of certain boards and commissions under Department of Arts, Culture, and History. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senior Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 524 is a governor's bill that consolidates the State Library Commission and the National Coal Heritage Area Authority under the Department of Arts, Culture, and History. The bill creates the State Library section under the Department of Arts, Culture, and History and transfers the powers and duties that previously belonged to the Library Commission to it. The Library Commission supports the bill. The bill also transfers the powers and duties of the National Coal Heritage Area Authority to a newly created National Coal Heritage Area Commission. The intent is to provide a steady source of matching funds to obtain federal grants. I entertain questions. Otherwise, I urge passage of the bill.
Question before the Senate is passage of the bill. Is there discussion? Junior Senator from the 8th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in opposition to Senate Bill 524, and just to take a little bit of issue with the description of the bill, there was a representative from the Library Commission that attended the committee meeting on this particular bill. As far as I understand it, she's fairly new. She's a CFO, and I believe her name is Ms. Campbell Schock. I don't know if I would describe her testimony as being in support of the bill because she hadn't even had an opportunity to discuss the bill at any great length with Mr. Randall Reed of the Department of Arts, Culture, and History. In any case, I oppose the bill because I think that libraries play an important role in our rural communities. I believe it's important that we protect their independence. With the passage of this bill, should it become law, the Library Commission will no longer be able to promulgate its own rules. Its funding will have to go through the Department of Arts, Culture, and History, and that means someone else will have to agree to it, so they won't have control over that. The justification given for the bill from the governor's office was a concern, and only a concern, that with the loss of a congressional seat, the Library Commission would move from 6 to 4 seats. Again, that was just a concern. There was no real evidence of that. In any case, I would guarantee you, or I don't want to guarantee anything to anybody, but in speaking to librarians that have spoken to me about the bill, they would much rather give up most of their seats as long as they remained independent. And so I urge a no vote on SB 524. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion? If not, the question for the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk should prepare the bill. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk close the machine, ascertain the results on this question. 25 yeas, 9 nays, 0 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Senate Bill 542, transferring Broadband Enhancement Council from Department of Commerce to Department of Economic Development. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senior Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 542 transfers the Broadband Enhancement Council from within the Department of Commerce to the Department of Economic Development. It also removes the Secretary of Commerce from the council and adds the Secretary of the Department of Economic Development as a voting member. Senate Bill 542 is a result of last year's elevation of the Economic Development Office to a separate department and aligns the Broadband Council with the Office of Broadband, which is already within the Department of Economic Development. I'll entertain questions. Otherwise, I urge passage of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? If not, the question before the Senior Senator from the 5th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request ruling from the chair under Rule 43. I'm a member of the Broadband Enhancement Council, and I ask that if I have a conflict and should be excused from voting. I'm only a class of 4 people. There are only 4 people affected by this. I believe the senior senator from the 6th and myself and 2 members from the House.
Sarah? Thanks for preparing me.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
You're only 4 people.
Yeah, there are only 4 people.
Senior Senator from the 5th, it's opinion of the chair that you should be excused from voting. Senior Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Same request as the senior senator from the 5th on Rule 43.
Same response. You'll be excused from voting. Question now is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk should prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results on this question. 32 yeas, 0 nays, 0 absent, 2 excused. More than a majority of those present and voting having voted in affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Senior Senator from the 17th. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill be made effective from passage and request unanimous consent that the roll call used on passage of the bill be used to make it so effective.
Senior Senator from the 17th moves that the bill be made effective from passage and request unanimous consent that the roll call used on the passage of the bill be used to make it so effective. Is there objection? Chair hears none. On this question, 32 yeas, 0 nays, 0 absent, 2 excused. More than 2/3 of those elected to the Senate having voted in the affirmative. I declare the bill effective from passage. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Senate Bill 570, establishing training for law enforcement and handling individuals with Alzheimer's and dementias. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senior Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 570 allows the development and presentation of a training program to assist law enforcement and corrections officers identify and respond to individuals who have Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. The program will be developed and presented by the West Virginia Alzheimer's Association at no cost to the state. The bill has wide support, including the West Virginia Chiefs of Police, the Sheriff's Association, and the Fraternal Order of Police. I'll entertain questions. Otherwise, I urge passage of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? Senator from Jefferson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to briefly speak in support of this bill. I was not able to add my name. It got through the process before I got here, but I just have to strongly support. I'm so glad that this is happening. As someone who has a family member with dementia, I can tell you the police are often having to find these folks when they are in the stage in which they wander and get lost. And I'm really grateful that those who worked on this bill did do this and introduced it, and I urge passage.
Is there further discussion? Senator from Boone.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also rise in support of this bill. There's been, again, we have a older population, and therefore we have a much more increase in Alzheimer's and the related dementias than other states. There's been a lot of work already done to try to make West Virginia a more dementia-friendly state. But this goes a long way in providing training for police officers. I have at least one episode of one of my older patients with dementia who was unable to follow commands due to his illness. He was kind of drug out of a car and ended up on the ground, and certainly that made everyone feel bad, including the police officer. So I think this training is going to help prevent that. I think it's, again, shining a light on something, and we'll be able to increase our ability to care for these our loved ones and also help the caregivers as well. I think that we'll be able to better understand what's available for support in communities. We know that there has been some financial exploitation of these individuals in the past, and we've worked on that by increasing penalties for financial exploitation. So this is a great bill, a good step for the police officers. Other first responders maybe down the road could also have this training, and I urge support.
Is there further discussion? Senator from Monongalia.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, rise in support of a piece of legislation. I'm not here next year, obviously. I do hope that you can use this framework, give it some serious consideration as it applies to those with autism and other ailments, if you want to call it that. Because we hear those stories across this country where police officers just aren't familiar with dealing with autism. And on the surface, you walk up to a car and you don't realize who you're dealing with, but there are signs that a child has autism or an adult has autism, and it's very specific. It's not hard to recognize, and I hope that in the future someone will take a look at a piece of legislation to address that issue. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senior Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. It was really easy for me to sign on as a co-sponsor and get this bill to go through the process. My grandfather back in the early 90s was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and it was the first time I'd ever heard of the disease. And he lived for about 10 years after the diagnosis. And I can imagine there was no issues of what this bill takes care of, but I can envision how it would have easily have happened to him had he been out in a car or got pulled over and, seemed a bit disenchanted. So it's really easy for me to support this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there further discussion? If not, the question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk should prepare the Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results on this question. 34 yeas, 0 nays, 0 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 574 relating to West Virginia PEIA.
Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Request unanimous consent that the bill lie over one day while retaining its place on the calendar.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. So ordered.
Engrossed Senate Bill 591 relating to process for filling vacancies in state legislature. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senator from Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 591 would amend a single section of our state code. It's Chapter 3, Article 10, Section 5. Chapter 3, of course, is elections. Article 10 is filling vacancies, and Section 5 addresses filling vacancies in the legislature. So this legislation arose in response to a decision that was made by our state Supreme Court of Appeals in June of last year. The case is State Ex Rel. Maynard versus Justice. And how the case occurred, Mr. President, was there was a man named Evans who was elected to the West Virginia House of Delegates the previous November. It would be November of 2020. And he resigned his office. He had taken his oath, I think, but he resigned his office on January 9th of 2021. And the question arose after that as to how that vacancy would be filled, what was the process. And there was litigation that our Supreme Court ended up having to write an opinion on. And I would recommend the opinion to anybody who is interested in it. It was really interesting and useful to me, Mr. President, because it touched upon a lot of things that we were working with throughout last year in redistricting. But the epilogue of the opinion is this. Our statute is not clear what happens when a delegate or senator resigns his office or dies in office when his or her district lies wholly within a single county. Now, there's only one Senate district right now that meets that test. It's the 17th. It lies wholly within Kanawha County. But there are many House delegates that lie completely within a single county, and more coming based on the redistricting that was done. I think 60-some, I'm told now, since they went to 100 single-member districts in the House of Delegates, there are 60-some districts that lie wholly within a county. If a district, delegate or Senate district, is comprised of parts of more than one county, law is absolutely clear what has to happen. There's a delegate district executive committee or Senate district executive committee, and that has members from all the counties that are in that district, that form that district, and they answer the question. They're the ones, that delegate district or Senate district executive committee is the entity that produces a list and sends it to the governor, from which the governor picks. The Constitution is silent on the subject. Article 4, Section 7 of our state Constitution says that when there's a vacancy in the legislature, they shall be filled by appointments in such manner as may be prescribed herein or by general law. And the Constitution doesn't have any specific provision in it on how you fill a legislative vacancy, so the Constitution leaves it to the legislature. So this bill is addressing when a vacancy occurs in a legislative office, and that would be because of a death or a resignation or, I guess, removal. So here's what it says. And we're not changing anything. It doesn't change anything as to the districts, delegate or Senate, which are formed of more than one county. But we're clarifying, and I think this is, many people thought that this was the law, but in the Maynard versus Justice case, the Supreme Court said, correctly I think, that our law doesn't address it. So here's the way it's going to go if this passes and becomes law. If the member was elected to a delegate district situated entirely within a single county, the list shall be submitted by the county executive committee in which the member resided. So it's the county executive committee. That's for House and Senate. Be happy to try to answer questions, Mr. President. I urge passage of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? If not, the question for the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor vote yea. Those opposed vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the... Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk close the machine and ascertain the results on this question. 34 yeas, 0 nays, 0 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present voting having voted affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House. Bills on second reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 371, authorizing miscellaneous boards and agencies to promulgate legislative rules. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
The bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Engrossed committee substitute for House Bill 3312, establishing a memorial to child labor and child workers who died in the course of employment in this state. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
The bill will be advanced to third reading.
Engrossed House Bill 4308, authorizing disclosure of juvenile information to Crime Victims Compensation Fund for investigation and award of benefits. Second reading of the bill.
Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the bill move to third with right to amend.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. So ordered. Bills on first reading. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that all bills on first reading be considered read a first time and advanced to second read.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Bills will be advanced. Introduction of guest. Remarks by members. Senator from Randolph.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to rise today and talk a little bit about personal income tax reform, which may or may not surprise some folks. But, in 2017, West Virginia started a conversation related to personal income tax reform. In this chamber, in this body, we started that conversation. And an interesting little bit of trivia is that every single member of this body on both sides of the aisle that are here today, that were here in 2017, voted at least one time for legislation that would reduce and eliminate the personal income tax. Every single member of this body at one time voted for that. If they were here today and here back then, that happened. But the conversation went beyond the state of West Virginia. And part of the reason I know that is if you Google back in 2017 states that were looking at income tax reform, there weren't really very many. But I looked, and last year in 2021, the state of Arizona, Idaho, Iowa, Louisiana, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, New Hampshire, Ohio, Oklahoma, and Wisconsin all passed legislation, and it went into effect that reduced personal income taxes in those states. So 11 states. So we started the conversation, but they're reaping the benefit of the conversation that we started. And it doesn't just end in 2021. This year, there are 12 more states that are doing income tax reform. And those states are some the same and some completely different. Some are Republican states, and some, like Colorado, are Democrat-controlled states. And again, they're going to reap the benefit of the conversation that we started in 2017. But we don't have to let West Virginia once again fall behind the rest of the country. We started this conversation, and right now we have House Bill 4007, which passed out of the House this year in a bipartisan way. It wasn't just Republicans that voted for it. There's Democrats voted for it too, at least one that I'm aware of. And that bill is sitting in Finance right now. And there's virtually no question if that bill were put on the agenda in the Finance Committee, it would pass out of there easily. And if it came to the floor of this chamber, it would pass out of here easily. And there's a governor sitting down there who has talked for 5 years now about income tax reform, or 6 years now about income tax reform and reducing and eliminating the income tax. So there's virtually no question that if it landed on the governor's desk, he would whip his pen right out and sign it. And West Virginia, instead of being left behind again, which is what I'm concerned we're possibly going to do, instead of being left behind once again, especially on something that we started the conversation, the governor signs that bill and we can start the process of reducing and eliminating the income tax in West Virginia. And so I'm hopeful, Mr. President, that at some point we will see House Bill 4007 put on the agenda in Finance, get it to the floor, get it on the governor's desk, and start creating a better future for West Virginia. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further remarks by members. Senior Senator from the 5th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to bring to everybody's attention the passing of someone that I had a great amount of respect for, who I worked with a lot, and that's Nancy Cartmill. Nancy Cartmill died yesterday. and she was a Cabell County Commissioner. She was also a former mayor of Barboursville, the first woman mayor ever elected in Barboursville. She worked this body as a lobbyist for the Parent Teachers Association for 20 years. She worked for the assisted living. She was a remarkable person and one that we'll greatly miss in the Cabell and Wayne area. I really looked at her as a very respected friend and one that I talked to on a regular basis about issues. But I would like if we could honor her for just a moment of silence.
Please rise.
Thank you.
Members and guests, please rise. Thank you. Further remarks by members. Miscellaneous business. Senator from Brooke.
Mr. President, remarks by members. I wanted to bring something to the body's attention that I was remiss to earlier this week, and that is on Sunday, my district had a state champion named in the sport of hockey when Wheeling Central defeated Wheeling Park 4-3. So Central is now, they're the state champs in the sport of hockey, Mr. President, and PJ Reckless team came out on top on that Sunday game while the Super Bowl was being played. But I wanted to bring it to the body's attention for a particular reason, in that one of the members of that team is an all-state forward by the name of Matthew, who happens to be the son of the senator from Marshall County. And so I know the senator has been doing a lot of driving back and forth to watch his son play in his senior year. And so I wanted to bring that state championship to everybody's attention here. So thank you, Mr. President.
Further remarks. Senior Senator from the 17th from Senator from Cabell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the eloquent remarks of the senior senator from the 5th and the senator from Brooke be placed in the appendix of the journal.
Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Further remarks. Miscellaneous business, senior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pending subject to announcements, I move the Senate stand adjourned until tomorrow at 11 a.m. I have one additional announcement, and that is on Friday, the Senate will meet at 9 a.m., so you can adjust your schedules accordingly. Thank you.
Further announcements, senior senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Finance will meet today at 3 p.m. in room 451M.
Further announcements. Senator from Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on the Judiciary will meet today at 3 o'clock p.m. in the Judiciary Committee Room 208, West Wing.
Are there further announcements? Senator from Mercer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Economic Development will meet today at 1 p.m. for 451M.
Junior Senator from the 17th.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The Pension Committee shall meet today at 2 p.m., also in 451. The agenda has been posted.
Are there further announcements? If not, the question for the Senate stand adjourned until 11 a.m. tomorrow. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the Senate adjourned until 11 a.m. tomorrow.
House will please be in order. Those persons thought having privilege of the floor will please vacate the chamber. Members and guests in the galleries will please rise as we are led in prayer by the gentleman of the 46th, Doug Burkhammer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let us pray. Lord, we just come to you, again, thankful for the opportunity to represent this great state and, Lord, to ultimately represent you here in this House. Lord, as always, we need your guidance, your wisdom, Lord, in making these decisions that impact so many people. And Lord, we just continue to just ask that you be with us as we struggle through this pandemic. Lord, you be with all of those that are suffering from loss, Lord, suffering from sickness, Lord. We believe that you are bigger than any virus. Be with us, guide us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All members and guests will please remain standing as we are led in the Pledge of Allegiance by the gentleman of the 44th, Doug Hanna.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, please join me in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Members and guests may be seated. Reading the journal.
Journal of the House of Delegates, Tuesday, February 15th, 2022.
June the 9th, Edgar Kimes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of the journal be dispensed with and that it be approved as having been read.
The June the 9th, ask unanimous consent that the further reading of the journal be dispensed with and that it be approved as having been read. Are there objections? There are no objections. Introductions. Lady in the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our doctor of the day is Dr. Howard Lafferty from Madison, West Virginia. If we could make him welcome.
June the 10th, I got Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today we have in the gallery, in the West Gallery, the entire 8th grade class from Wirt County High School, and accompanying them today is Nathan Edwards, Jessica Thays, Luann McVeigh, Gail Hickman, Andrea Bailey, and my daughter, Brandy Chris Keaton. Would you all please stand for the 8th grade class of Wirt County?
June the 28th, Edgar Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today we have paging for us two young men from Summers County who have the distinction of being the grandsons of former Delegate Arnold Ryan that was here a few years ago. And I would like them to stand when I call their name. First of all, it's Aidan Ryan. He goes to Daniels Elementary over in Raleigh County. And Dean Ryan, his brother, he goes to Meadowbridge Elementary School back over in, again, in Fayette County, I believe it is. But anyway, their parents are setting up in the North Gallery, Mr. and Mrs. Ryan, and she happens to be a school teacher. So would you all two stand, please, and we'll all make you welcome. Thank you.
June the 51st, Dr. Statler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm honored today to sponsor two young homeschooled students from Montague County down here to page for us today. If they please rise, Emily Woods and Max Woods. And they are joined in the gallery by their mother, Allison Woods. Would you please make them welcome?
June the 40th, Dr. Jeffries.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With us today, serving as a page, we have Braxton Skoll. He is a junior at Herbert Hoover High School, and this is his 12th year of paging. He is the son of Robbie and Lori Skoll. As you may know, Robbie is an officer of the Capitol Police, and Lori is the operations clerk in the House Clerk's office. Braxton is on the tennis team at Herbert Hoover. Please make him feel welcome today.
June the 19th, Tuckett Booth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the South Gallery, we have two constituents from Wayne County. We have Tyler Brown, a graduate of Marshall University. He was on the Gasparilla and New Mexico Bowl win. Beside him, we have Elijah Wellman, two-time Iron Mountaineer Award winner. Would the House please make these sons of West Virginia welcome?
June the 61st, Dr. Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Joining us today from Martinsburg are two homeschool students, Scarlett and Sebastian Ryan. Mr. Speaker, they just learned about our Capitol here in Charleston last week, and they decided to take a field trip to see our Capitol. They are joined by their mom, Sarah Catro. If the House would please make them welcome.
Lady in the 49th, Douglas Summers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Joining me today is my constituent and former delegate, Jordan Hill. If he could stand and we could make him welcome.
Lady in the 41st, Delegate Tully.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, and thank you. I have three very special pages today here on the floor with us. If they would please stand when I call their name. I have Mason Ryan Granis, Avery Elizabeth Tully, and Emily Claire Tully. They come to us from Mount Nebo Elementary in Nicholas County, and they are chaperoned by their grandfather and my husband, Lawrence V. Tully, in the gallery. So if you would make my grandchildren feel welcomed, And my husband feel welcome. Thank you very much.
Gentleman 48th, Doug Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the delegates from Harrison County, and in the West Gallery today, we have members from the Harrison County Chamber and Leadership Harrison. If they'd please stand, and if the House would make them welcome.
Gentleman 50th, Doug Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to introduce in the South Gallery a friend of mine, Tim Liebrick, if he'd stand. Tim's from Morgantown, West Virginia, but he has done impressive work in Marion County and in Fairmont as the past director of Fairmont Main Street, and he's currently taken a new job just a few weeks ago with the Fairmont State University Foundation. Please make him feel welcome.
The gentleman 26th, Doug Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have many guests to introduce to you today, pages from Mercer County as well as McDowell County. Let's start with Ashlyn Miller, and Ashlyn is chaperoned by Jerry Vance. We also have Autumn Reynolds from Mount View High School, Dalton Powell from Mount View High School. We have Haley Green from Mount View Middle School, and her mother, Tammy Farrell, has also joined us in the gallery. We have Julia Vance from Mercer County. She goes to Princeton Middle. My niece. We have Karina Finley, and she is from Mount View Middle School. We have Liliana Hazard from Mount View Middle School, and Peyton Fowler from Mount View Middle School, and her mother, Carmela Wright, is also in the gallery. Would you make them feel welcome? Also, Mr. Speaker, in the, West Gallery? In the West Gallery, we're joined by royalty today. Her Royal Highness, Miss Jamie Vance, is with us. Please stand, Miss Jamie. I'll kiss your ring later. Thank you for being with us. Also, by way of long-distance introduction, we have all the students from Southside K-8 School that are watching us via the stream in Moore, West Virginia, and their teacher is Mackenzie Hale. So if you'll wave at the camera and make them, let them know we're thinking about them up here in Charleston.
The gentleman 37th, Doug Pushkin's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today in the South Gallery, I see we are joined by a member of Charleston City Council here on her official capacity with the Mountaineer Food Bank. Councilwoman Caitlin Cook is here, and I see she is accompanied by her chaperone, Miss Eden Burton. If they could rise, and would the House please make them feel welcome.
The gentleman 36th, Doug Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is West Virginia State Day, and I would just point out that that is the reason for my jacket. There was a citation this morning, and they have tables out in the hall, and they're happy to greet folks. And on behalf of the delegates from the 36th, I would just ask that the members welcome and make all of the folks from West Virginia State feel welcome to be here today. Thank you.
Lady with 51st, like a flesh hour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to welcome two people who've come all the way from England to visit our capital. It's a sad story, though. Maria and David Hargreaves are in the South Gallery, and their son lived in the Morgantown area and has disappeared. He disappeared in early January, and they came here to search for him. He was a professional rugby player in England, played for 4 of the best teams in the world. And after a car wreck in December where he injured his back and he doesn't have a car anymore, being home alone on the holidays, he has disappeared without a trace. In our area, the sheriff's office and a large group of people in the mountain area, rescue group, plus a lot of volunteers, have been looking and looking. He's worked in Pittsburgh and in Roanoke, West Virginia, and Clarksburg as a pipeline inspector. He was laid off. It's a hard time of the year to be laid off and on your own. We're going to have a press conference today at 2 o'clock on the Capitol steps on the Riverside. If any of you could come and be with us to help support this family and share your ideas of what we might do to try to find him. Just think, they have 3 kids and 1 disappeared without a trace. We want all of you to stand and give them your love and join us, if you can, at 2 o'clock on the Capitol steps.
For our members and guests will remain standing and chair will recognize Delegate Pinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like our guests to remain standing as well, and I would like the body to take a moment of silence, and let's pray for this family, and let's pray for the safe return of this young man. May we pray together, please. Father in heaven, Lord, we come to you right now, and Lord, we realize that this is a very serious, very trying time. And Lord, we absolutely pray together that you would move and that you would work. Lord, as a parent, I can't even begin to imagine what they're going through. So, Father, I pray that you would wrap them up in peace, and I pray that you would wrap them up in hope and comfort. And, Lord, we pray for his safe return, please. And that somehow, some way, someone will see something and that he'll be found safely and return to his family. And the Bible's promise, where 2 or 3 are gathered together in your name, that you'd be in the midst, and certainly we have 2 or 3 here today that are gathered together in your name for this particular purpose. So, Lord, we ask it in Christ's name. Amen.
Again, if members and guests will please remain standing, the chair will recognize the lady from the 35th, Doug Young.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was hoping we could all take a moment of silence today on behalf of myself, the delegates all from Kanawha District, and especially Delegate Pack and myself. Kanawha County lost someone very important to us. Paul Nussbaum, who was DHHR Secretary from 2001 to 2005, passed away yesterday after a very short illness. He was very involved in public health. He started the RAISE program back in the year 2000, and he was just really important to our community. So if we could take a moment of silence.
House will ask all members and guests to please observe a brief moment of silence at this time. Thank you. Members and guests may be seated. Further introductions at this time? If not, standing committee reports.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration House Bill 4524, reducing the rate of interest on delinquent property taxes, and reports the same back with amendment with recommendation that it do pass as amended, but that it first be referred to the Committee on Finance.
All right, that bill will be referred to the committee. That report will be received, and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Finance. Chair will recognize the lady from the 36th before the clerk reads the next report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So sorry, everybody. I do have a few introductions really quickly that are very important to me. I do have a page with me, Bladen Tate, if you could stand over here. Bladen goes to John Adams Middle School, and he is joined by his father, who is the government organization counsel, Chris Etheridge. So if we can make Bladen feel welcome. And last but certainly not least, I must have gotten the memo that it was Bring Your Family to the Capitol Day, and I'm so excited about it because my family's joining me here in the South Gallery today. My partner Troy, my children Milo and Zella, their best friends Leighton and Reagan, and their mom Casey, if everyone could make them feel welcome.
Next standing committee report.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration House Bill 4559, providing for legislative rulemaking relating to the disposition of unidentified and unclaimed remains in the possession of the Chief Medical Examiner, and House Bill 4596 relating generally to additional persons qualifying for the provisions of the Law Enforcement Officers Safety Act, and reports by committee substitutes therefore, with the recommendation that the committee substitutes each do pass.
That report will be received.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration House Bill 4627 to provide for no more than 2 licensed laboratories for medical cannabis testing in this state, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass.
That report will be received.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration House Bill 4631 establishing a bone marrow and peripheral blood stem donation awareness program, and reports back a committee substitute therefore, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass.
That report will be received.
House Bill 2798 relating to requiring the Health Department to mandate mucopolysaccharidosis type 1, MPS 1 test for newborn babies to be known as MB's Law, and reports back a committee substitute therefore, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass.
That report will be received.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration House Bill 4348 relating to pharmacy technicians, and reports back a committee substitute therefore, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass.
That report will be received.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration House Bill 4585 relating to controlled substance monitoring and removing a dispensing prohibition, and reports back a committee substitute therefore, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass.
That report will be received.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration House Bill 4649 transferring the operations of the West Virginia Children's Health Insurance Program to the Bureau for Medical Services, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass.
That report will be received.
Your Committee on Energy and Manufacturing has had under consideration House Bill 4488 relating to coal mining and changing fees for permitting actions, and reports back a committee substitute therefore, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass, and with the recommendation that second reference to the Committee on Finance be dispensed with.
That report will be received. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The 2 chairs have conferred on this matter, and I now ask unanimous consent that the second reference of the bill to the Committee on Finance be dispensed with.
The lady from the 49th asks unanimous consent that the reference to the Committee on Finance for House Bill 4488 be dispensed with. Does the chair hear objections? Okay, no objections are heard. That second committee reference will be dispensed with. Next committee report.
Your Committee on Energy and Manufacturing has had under consideration House Bill 4491 to establish requirements for carbon dioxide sequestration, and reports the same back with amendment, with recommendation that it do pass as amended, but that it first be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
That report will be received, and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Your Committee on Veterans Affairs and Homeland Security has had under consideration House Bill 4386, expand the scope of hunting, fishing, and trapping benefits provided to former members of the United States Armed Forces, and House Bill 4439, creating a special revenue account known as the Military Authority Federal Matching Grant Fund, and reports the same back with amendment, with the recommendation that they each do pass as amended, but that they first be referred to the Committee on Finance.
That report will be received, and both bills will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration House Bill 4377 to update the involuntary commitment process, and reports the same back with amendment, with the recommendation that it do pass as amended, but that it first be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
That report will be received, and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Originating in the Committee on Health and Human Resources and reported with the recommendation that it do pass, but that it first be referred to the Committee on Finance, is House Bill 4020 relating to reorganizing the Department of Health and Human Resources.
That report will be received, and under House Rule 80, that bill will now be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Your Joint Committee on Enrolled Bills has examined, found truly enrolled, and on the 15th day of February 2022, presented to His Excellency the Governor for his action the following bills, signed by the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Delegates. House Bill 2325, removing the requirement of continuing education for barbers and cosmetologists. House Bill 4301, reforming membership requirements of Huntington Park and Recreation District Board. Committee substitute for House Bill 4074, requires schools provide eating disorder and self-harm training for teacher and students. Committee substitute for House Bill 4062, removing the residency requirement for the Commissioner of the Division of Highways. And on the 14th day of February 2022, Senate Bill 436, correcting code citation for authority of State Fire Marshal.
That report will be received. Are there further standing committee reports? Select committee reports?
Originating in the Select Committee on Coalfield Communities and reported with the recommendation that they each do pass are House Bill 4823, relating to vocational and technical education programs, House Bill 4824, relating unsafe real property, and House Bill 4825, relating to the Occupational Pneumoconiosis Board.
That report will be received. Under House Rule 80, House Bill 4823 will be referred to the Committee on Education, then the Committee on Finance. House Bills 4824 and 25 will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary. Other select committee reports, executive messages, Senate messages, resolutions.
House Concurrent Resolution 76, U.S. Navy Bosun's Mate First Class Ferris Burton Memorial Bridge.
Laid in the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of resolutions introduced be dispensed with, and that each resolution be considered as formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as indicated in the delegate console system.
Laid in the 49th, ask unanimous consent that the further reading of resolutions introduced be dispensed with, and that each resolution be considered as having been formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as indicated on the delegate console system. Are there objections? There are no objections. Petitions, motions, bills introduced, unfinished business. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have several naming resolutions pending under unfinished business today. At this time, the chair will ask the clerk to read all the naming resolutions pending under unfinished business.
House Concurrent Resolution 1, Alex Perdue Memorial Bridge. House Concurrent Resolution 4, John B. Short Memorial Bridge. House Concurrent Resolution 7, Daniel Edward Colton Red Haney Memorial Bridge. House Concurrent Resolution 9, U.S. Army Staff Sergeant James C. Vickers Silver Star Highway. House Concurrent Resolution 13, the Dr. Enrique Aguilar Memorial Bridge. House Concurrent Resolution 14, Colonel Ronald John Ron Chiquetto Memorial Road. House Concurrent Resolution 25, Specialist 5 Terry Lee McClanahan Memorial Bridge. House Concurrent Resolution 26, Charleston Police Officer Cassie Johnson Fallen Heroes Memorial Bridge. House Concurrent Resolution 36, John Calvin J.C. Baker Memorial Bridge. House Concurrent Resolution 46, U.S. Navy Seaman Donald Homer Wheeler Memorial Bridge. House Concurrent Resolution 47, U.S. Army Corporal Billy Earl Duty Memorial Bridge. House Concurrent Resolution 48, West Virginia State Police Sergeant John S. Siner Memorial Road. House Concurrent Resolution 49, Charles M. Charlie Biggs Memorial Highway. House Concurrent Resolution 50, John Ellison Road. House Concurrent Resolution 52, U.S. Army Sergeant Roy E. Givens Memorial Road. House Concurrent Resolution 61, Timothy Wayne Farley Memorial Bridge.
The chair is in receipt of requests for separate consideration on House Concurrent Resolutions 14 and 26. Does any member wish to vote separately on any of the other resolutions just read by the clerk? If not, the question is on the adoption of the naming resolutions as just read by the clerk, accepting House Concurrent Resolutions 14 and 26. Those in favor of adoption of those resolutions will please say aye. Those opposed will please say no. The ayes have it. Chair declares those resolutions adopted. Clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Question now before the House is on House Concurrent Resolution 14. House Concurrent Resolution 14. Is there debate on the resolution? Roll call vote on the resolution is demanded. Is the demand sustained? Demand is sustained. Question is on the adoption of House Concurrent Resolution 14. Those in favor of adoption of that resolution will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on this question. There are 97 ayes, 0 nays, and 3 members absent. Majority of members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares that resolution adopted. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. The question now before the House is on the adoption of House Concurrent Resolution 26. Is there debate on the resolution? Gentleman 36, Doggett Rowe, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have a very important resolution today. It is to honor Charleston police officer Cassie Johnson. She died in the line of duty on December 3rd, 2020. She was a Charleston police officer. She was only 28 years old. And her death really is symbolic of what the danger and the horror is that each first responder in the state faces every time they make a call. She was murdered. She had pets that she loved, and she loved all animals. The city of Charleston has named a dog park, very nice dog park, in her honor, and what we propose to do with this resolution is to name a bridge in Charleston on Washington Street, on the west side, next to or very near to the police memorial that is there on Pennsylvania Avenue. The name of the bridge will be Charleston Police Officer Cassie Johnson and other fallen heroes, because we want to recognize not just Officer Johnson's tragic passing, but the tragic passing of other first responders who have died in the line of duty. Her death is a tragedy, of course, for her family. Her mother, Cheryl S. Casto, is left without her daughter. The city, of course, is left without an officer who dedicated her life to helping people. And she worked at the Charleston Humane Society and did a lot for animals and also for her family. Mr. Speaker, I would ask that the members stand and that we pause and remember Officer Johnson and also all first responders who are in danger as they do their work in the line of duty.
Gentleman 36 asks unanimous consent that the House observe a moment of silence in honor of Officer Johnson. If all members will please stand, the House will observe that moment of silence prior to the vote. Question now before the House is the adoption of House Resolution 26, House Concurrent Resolution 26. Those in favor of adoption. Yes,
Mr. Speaker, a roll call is requested.
Roll call is demanded. Is the demand sustained? Demand is sustained. Those in favor of adoption of the resolution will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on this question. There were 98 ayes, 0 nays, and 2 members absent. A majority of members voting in the affirmative. The chair declares that resolution adopted. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Is there a further unfinished business? If not, bills on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4002, creating the Certified Sites and Development Readiness Program.
Are there objections to having this bill explained in lieu of having it read? If not, Chair recognizes the gentleman in the 48th, Douglas Riley, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 4002 creates the Certified Sites and Development Readiness Program under the Department of Economic Development. This program will establish evaluation criteria and site certification levels based upon developmental readiness of an applicant's sites. Applicants may include only state, county, municipal, or regional governmental entities. The department will select, evaluate, and certify sites in the program. The sites will be evaluated based upon its readiness to be developed. After the evaluation, the department will provide a report to the applicant identifying deficiencies, strengths, and suggesting improvements. There are two grant programs within this bill. A matching grant, the department may provide up to 50% match, which may be spent only for directly improving the sites. The matching grant funds are required to be paid back after the site is sold or leased. The micro grant, the department may provide applicants through the micro grant program up to $25,000 to improve their sites. With that, Mr. Speaker, I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage of the bill will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. There were 98 ayes, 0 nays, and 2 members absent. Majority of members voting in the affirmative. The chair declares that bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4002, creating the Certified Sites and Development Readiness Program.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4008, relating to Higher Education Policy Commission funding formula.
Are there objections to having this bill explained in lieu of having it read? No objections are heard. Gentleman the 27th, Delegate Ellington, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This committee substitute directs the Higher Education Policy Commission to propose emergency and legislative rules to establish a performance-based funding formula model that the Commission and Community and Technical College Council shall use beginning in the fiscal year 2024 budget cycle in developing their annual budget requests. The funding formula model shall emphasize outcomes focused on student success and institutional mission achievement, and it shall include a range of variables that shall be weighted in a manner that corresponds to each institution's mission and provides incentives for productivity improvements consisting with the goal of strengthening the state's economy and workforce by developing the most competitive and capable graduates in the nation. The legislative rule shall, at a minimum, establish a set of objective performance metrics that reflect and support the state's higher education goals and priorities, and the methodology by which those metrics shall be used in the allocation of state funds. It also ensures that a portion of each institution's base appropriation is allocated based on outcomes achieved over a defined period of time. It also incentivizes post-secondary program offerings that align with the state's higher education and workforce development priorities. It also establishes safeguards to ensure stability of the funding formula model, including but not limited to providing for periodic reviews of and revision to the performance metrics and funding methodology, in addition to accounting for inflationary effects. The committee substitute also cleans up statutory language by removing some current commission powers and duties that conflict with the purposes of the bill. It requires also an interim chancellor to meet all criteria that are required of a chancellor. It clarifies the commission and council's responsibilities in conjunction with the West Virginia network to support system-wide technology needs, revises current law provisions for rulemaking regarding transfers of credits and obtaining academic credit or advanced placement standing based on experience. And it also authorizes the commission to promulgate rules, exercise powers and duties governing the student loan, scholarship, state aid, etc., as provided in Chapter 18C of the Code. It removes language requiring the Commission to provide education to parents and students about meningococcal meningitis, and also makes non-substantive technical cleanup and clarifying corrections. Mr. Speaker, that's the bill. I'll be glad to answer any questions. I urge adoption.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? The gentleman to 66, Douglas Espinosa, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to co-sponsor and stand in support of this legislation today, and I thank the Chairman of Education, Chancellor Tucker, our university presidents, and all those who have helped us get to this point. I'm still reminded back in 2013 as a new member of the House Education Committee, hearing a presentation on higher education funding in our state, and after seeing the disparity in funding among our various 4- and our 2-year institutions, questioned why various institutions were funded differently than others. And after repeated questioning, I came to the conclusion that there really wasn't a rational, fair, transparent basis for the way that our higher education institutions are funded. And so certainly have been working over the years to try to get to this point here 10 years later of finally being able to enact, again, a very transparent, rational process for funding our higher education institutions, so that hopefully my successor who sits there in that seat and sees how our institutions are funded won't have those same questions, or at least we'll be able to get the answers to how their institutions are funded. So again, very happy to support this legislation today, and would encourage you to do the same. Thank you.
Gentleman 36, Douglas Rowe.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of this legislation. It's very important. It's based on a model that's used in Tennessee, and they have a good track record with it there. Most essentially, you should just realize that it's a system of encouraging the completion of degrees, and there are extra points as students go through, and they get at the 4-year institutions 30 hours, and then they get 60 and 90 and 120 and graduate. There are extra points that the schools get. And it's not a punitive system, but it is a system that encourages each of the schools to push hard to have their students complete their academic program. And I think that the work that's been done is remarkable, and I do happily support the bill as it's written.
Is there further debate on the bill? If not, the question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 98 ayes, 0 nays, and 2 members absent. A majority of members voting in the affirmative. The chair declares that bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4008 relating to Higher Education Policy Commission funding formula.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4259, creating the West Virginia Small Business Jumpstart Act.
Are there objections to having this bill explained in lieu of having it read? No objections are heard. Gentleman 16th, Douglas Linville, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 4259 would create the West Virginia Small Business Jumpstart Act. Of note, this bill works by putting forward a credit for insurance premium taxation. West Virginia has a significant problem with venture capital. In fact, over the last several years, we've had $0 invested in venture capital investment in companies in the state of West Virginia. The act works by incentivizing federally licensed small business investment companies and rural business investment companies with deep small business investment experience to raise up to $125 million of private capital exclusively for investment in the state of West Virginia. Specifically, the companies that are eligible to receive this investment are those companies which have 0 to 200 employees, and the maximum amount that they can receive is $5 million. Very specifically, those businesses must have their principal operations located in the state of West Virginia with at least 80% of payroll or employees residing in our state, or for border counties, that threshold is reduced slightly to allow for the various ways that people may live across our borders. To incentivize the private private capital, the state will authorize a maximum of $20 million of insurance premium tax credits, which are non-transferable and non-assignable, in years 4, 5, 6, and 7 of the program. That is the bill, Mr. Speaker. I'm happy to take any questions, and I do urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Lady from 35th, Doug Young, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes.
When I read through the bill, I didn't see anything about venture capitalists. Is this for any small business, or it's specific to venture capitalists?
So it's to provide venture capital funding to those businesses. So the eligible businesses to receive funding out of this program are those small businesses with 0 to 200 employees, as I described. The businesses that could take advantage of the tax credits are those which are federally identified as, excuse me, let me get the exact here, a federally licensed small business investment company or a federally licensed rural business investment company.
What's stopping them from getting that money now?
So they can, but they're not incentivized to do so in the state of West Virginia. Of note, I believe there's 13 states that have put forward a similar program and reauthorized it repeatedly. Among those states are many of our border states, including Kentucky, Ohio, and Pennsylvania.
Why would we have to incentivize somebody to get money?
So you're saying to get money. We would be incentivizing folks to invest in small businesses in the state of West Virginia. And so, interestingly, when you're talking about large loans, it's generally about the same amount of due diligence that takes place, whether it's a $10 billion deal or a $100 million deal or a $5 million deal. And so generally capital flows to where it is best treated and where they can, with the least amount of due diligence, be able to make the most amount of money.
Okay, so the investment has to be $125 million for them to be able to receive this?
No, ma'am. It is a maximum of $125 million that can be raised with the program, but any individual company that would be funded by one of these venture capital companies can only receive a maximum of $5 million.
Is there a minimum?
There is no minimum, I don't believe.
So they can get any amount of money?
Sure. So if a small business needed $50,000 in venture capital and the due diligence was there, then that investment could be made.
That's not very common, though, right? For venture capitalists, it's typically fairly large sums of money, right?
So there are hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars invested in venture capital all across the country. This program would incentivize that in small businesses in the state of West Virginia, where demonstrably over the last several years, while elsewhere in the country there's been a lot of this activity, there's been very little to none in the state of West Virginia.
Okay, and you said it does have to be towards rural counties, or it can be everybody?
Generally, it is rural counties. The bill spells out a non-metropolitan county for investment. That's the rural business investment companies.
Do you know if there are counties rural is an odd word to define sometimes in federal or state code. Would there be counties that aren't able to receive this?
Council advises me that we're not aware of any in the state of West Virginia which would be ineligible to receive this. It's piggybacking on some federal guidelines and Code of Federal Rules, I believe.
Okay, thank you so much. Speak to the bill quickly.
Lady is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do think this is a good bill. My questions are because I don't understand venture capitalism at all. I think it's great, and I'm excited to see things about jump-starting small business. I hope we do a lot more to jump-start small businesses. I've seen a lot of bills that are all about small business, and they're only about businesses that have at least $3 million or at least so much money. We're not doing very much to provide capital. We're doing a lot to provide tax credits. And really small businesses, which is what most of West Virginia is, they need money. They don't need tax credits. They need help getting started and getting moving. And so I fully support this bill. I just hope that we continue down a path of trying to help small businesses that aren't multi-million-dollar businesses, because that's not who's on Main Street. Thank you.
Gentleman 35th, Doug Scaff.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Quite simply, and thanks to my colleague for explaining the bill, and I just wanted to kind of bring it down a level real quick for general terms. Our state's been blessed with natural resources and carried us through for years and years and years, and it's time for us to diversify. And we all talked about diversifying. Well, how do you do that? We got to do that with small businesses, and small businesses need capital, investments, and money. They need money. Like my colleague said over there from 16th, $200 billion was invested Zero in West Virginia. Zero in West Virginia. And our neighboring states have jumped into a program very similar, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. And you know why they're getting that money? Is that they created a program similar to this to incentivize those people to use that money in their state. So we're just trying to keep up. We're trying to keep up with them. We do so much to incentivize large corporations in doing this, but this is like a little different concept. And just to explain what I mean, unlike traditional economic development where you kind of invest in companies, this doesn't incentivize the small business directly. It's a program to raise private capital to help those businesses, and they decide where it's best. And it's a full application process, and it's fully vetted to figure out who needs the money and has the biggest return on their investment. But the bottom line here is this: out of 50 of the lowest performing counties, 50 of the lowest performing counties in the country, 17 of them are located in West Virginia. When it comes to small businesses and development and capital, 17 out of 50 in the whole country are here in West Virginia. So we got to do something different. We got to do something creative. We got to do something bold. We got to work together. You know, small businesses need a lot of help. And if we have to incentivize those funds, and there's two main ones that he alluded to. There's two different ones to answer my colleagues' questions. There's an SBIC organization that's just kind of traditional small businesses. Then there's a rural IBC, I believe, or rural investment in the businesses. So there's two different opportunities, not just the rural counties. This will benefit everybody in West Virginia. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to diversify our economy. We got to be creative. We got to compete with our neighboring states. There's a reason why that money's not coming here. We got to get on a level playing field, and this bill will help us do that. I encourage everyone to support this bill. Thank you.
Gentleman to 16th, Delegate Hornbuckle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would my friend from the 16th yield?
Certainly.
Yes, sir, and thank you for your work on this. I had a follow-up question about the rural definition in there. And so I know that you said, or council might have said, that no county would be ineligible for this, correct?
Correct.
Yes, sir. And so my question is, take Cabell County, for instance. Would a certain portion of the county be ineligible, let's say downtown Huntington versus Culloden?
So there's two different types of these investment companies here. So it potentially, especially if Huntington continues to grow, though I would note that by the federal definitions, we don't actually have a single true metropolitan city in the entire state of West Virginia. Under the rural type, may be ineligible, but there are two types, within this bill. There's the SBIC and the RBICs. And so as the minority leader alluded to, at least on one of them, no matter what, just about anywhere in the state, you should be eligible.
So in the city of Huntington, there would be a portion of the bill they would be eligible for?
Certainly.
All right, thank you.
Question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on this question. There are 95 ayes, 2 nays, and 3 members absent. A majority of members voting in the affirmative. The chair declares that bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4259, creating the West Virginia Small Business Jumpstart Act.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the bill take effect from passage.
The question is on the motion that the bill take effect from its passage. Those in favor of that motion will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on this question. There are 95 ayes, 2 nays, and 3 members absent. 2/3 of members voting in the affirmative. The chair declares that bill effective from passage. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4351, relating to the implementation of an acuity-based patient classification system.
Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? No objections are heard. Gentleman 17th, Delegate Rohrbach, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. House Bill 4351 requires a hospital to develop an acuity-based patient classification system, which shall be used in developing a staffing plan for each hospital unit. The patient classification system is a measurement system in nursing that reflects actual patient care needs for staffing purposes. Each unit nurse staffing committee shall annually review the acuity-based patient classification system and submit recommendations for changes based on standards of practice. Each facility shall submit a prospective staffing plan to the Department of Homeland Security. These plans are not available through FOIA. Each facility shall provide orientation, competency validation, education, and training programs in accordance with a nationally recognized accrediting body recognized by the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, or in accordance with the Office of Health Facility Licensure and Certification. That's a summary of the bill, Mr. Speaker, and I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? Lady from the 41st Delegate Tully is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Permission to speak on the bill?
The lady is recognized.
Thank you, sir. I don't think that it's been a big secret that we've had a nursing retention problem here in the state for quite some time. It existed prior to the pandemic, and throughout the pandemic, we've seen the number of staffed beds go down. When you talk to nurses that actually work in the field, what they'll tell you is the work environment. Staffing is very, very important to nurses. It's not always pay and benefits. It's being valued and having your voice heard. This bill is the first step to allow nurses to have their voice heard and allow them to have input into the unit staffing plans. When I was appointed back in June in 2020, I remember speaking to the governor regarding my concerns about the number of staffed beds and then actually the number of ventilators that we had available for the pandemic. The idea to put the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management in this bill was mine, and it stemmed from a place that we have seen, now that we have seen, we are very, very short on beds and short on actually not only beds, but staff beds. So I really feel that this prospective planning, especially submitting the plans to the Department of Homeland Security, hopefully will help us plan for the next major emergency or health catastrophe that we may see in the future. This bill is not a magic pill or a bullet to fix every staffing issue. It is hopefully the positive beginning. I'm also very pleased to announce that the West Virginia Hospital Association, under the direction of their new executive leader, worked with us on this bill, and I believe that they are in agreement with the bill as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I urge passage, and I hope that everybody will light that board up green for every nurse in their district. Thank you.
Is there other debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 97 ayes, 0 nays, and 3 members absent. Majority of members voting in the affirmative. The chair declares that bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4351 relating to the implementation of an acuity-based patient classification system.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 4352, decreasing federal taxable income.
Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? There are no objections. Gentleman of the 64th to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The bill would modify the changes to the apportionment of business income earned in more than one state that is taxable under personal income tax law in West Virginia made last year in the Remote Worker Bill, House Bill 2026, that shifted West Virginia's tax law from a three-factor apportionment formula, which is property, payroll, and sales, to a single sales factor apportionment formula. For example, sales are considered, and also shifted to a market-based sourcing of sales. The bill would allow additional modification decreasing federal taxable income for corporation net income tax purposes to publicly traded companies, included affiliated corporations, participating in the filing of publicly traded companies' financial statement. If the changes enacted in House Bill 2026 results in an aggregate increase
increase to the taxpayer's net deferred tax liability, or an aggregate decrease to the taxpayer's net deferred tax asset, or an aggregate change from a net deferred tax asset to a net deferred tax liability. If that occurs, then this type of taxpayer would be allowed this new decreasing modification referred to in the bill as a subtraction. This decreasing modification, referred to in the bill as a subtraction, would be spread out over 10 years. Although the taxpayer may not claim this modification to its federal taxable income for state tax purposes before the tax year beginning 2027, in order to claim it at that time, the taxpayer must first file a statement with the tax commissioner on or before July 1, 2023, specifying the total amount of the subtraction which the taxpayer claims. That's the bill. I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on this question. There were 97 ayes, 0 nays, and 3 members absent. Majority of members voting in the affirmative. The chair declares that bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
House Bill 4352, decreasing federal taxable income.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4426, repeal Article 33-25G-1 et sec, creating provider-sponsored networks.
Are there objections to having this bill explained in lieu of having it read? No objections are heard. Gentleman the 17th to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good afternoon again, ladies and gentlemen. House Bill 4426 would repeal the articles which established provider-sponsored health networks, health insurance networks. Provider-sponsored networks are health care delivery networks owned and operated by providers. The law was implemented in 2012, which led to the establishment of the West Virginia Family Health Network. This network did not renew its management care contract effective June 30th, 2019. That's a summary of the bill, Mr. Speaker, and I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on this question. There are 96 ayes, no, 0 nays, and 4 members absent. Majority of members voting in the affirmative. The chair declares that bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4426, repeal Article 33-25G-1 et sec, creating provider-sponsored networks.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4451, eliminating the requirement that otherwise qualified investment assets be located or installed at or within 2 miles of a pre-existing manufacturing facility.
Are there objections to having this bill explained in lieu of having it read? If not, gentleman to 63rd, Delegate Hardy to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The purpose of the bill would amend the provisions of the West Virginia Code relating to the special method of appraisals, qualified capital additions to manufacturing facilities. Current law provides that these qualified capital additions are to be valued at salvage, which is statute defines as 5% of original cost. Current law also requires that certain of these additions be made within 2 miles of the existing manufacturing facilities. This bill would eliminate the 2-mile requirement for additions placed on service or use after July 1, 2023. I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? Chairman the 30th, Delegate Bates.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Surely.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm not having the opportunity to ask this question in finance. So is that the only change in the bill, the two-mile change? Apart from that, the existing statute is maintained?
Yes, my abstract says that everything stays same in the bill except that this section of the bill would eliminate the 2-mile requirement for the additional placed of services. So basically, if they added on to their existing facility, this 2-mile requirement would no longer be
So under the current law, if you're an existing entity that met the definition and you were to expand your services, let's just say in the same location, then you could take this salvage deduction, salvage valuation, but if you was to expand your operations by opening a plant or an entity somewhere else, in another county, for example, then you would lose that ability. Is that your understanding of the bill?
Yes.
So we're expanding the applicability of that salvage value to entities that open a distant location as opposed to one that's physically attached to an existing operation.
Yes, we are expanding so companies can, add to their business and they will not be penalized, and they can have an addition to their business that no longer has to meet this 2-mile radius to get this salvage rate.
Okay, and one more if I can. Do you know if this relates to a particular facility or a particular investment, or is there some, was the testimony to say that this is an impediment for a particular entity to do these things, or is it just a general, let's make this a broader program?
There's not one I don't believe that this pertains to just one single. Okay, so I'm being told by counsel what this bill is. This is a freedom bill. Okay, this is
not what she said.
This is an economic development bill. What we're trying to do here, sir, is to encourage businesses that are here to stay here and to grow and make our state better.
Yeah, trust me, I get all that. So, but the question was, is it to benefit a particular taxpayer?
Not that I'm aware of.
And that's the question. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman 66, Douglas Espinosa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we discussed, I do work for a manufacturer. While I'm not aware of any plans to pursue this provision, certainly it's conceivable if they continue to be successful, and therefore, out of an abundance of caution, I'd ask to be excused from voting.
Yes, under the set of facts as relayed to the chair by the gentleman of 66, Douglas Espinosa, it would be the ruling of the chair that the gentleman would belong to a class of greater than 5 individuals and therefore should vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there further debate on the bill? If not, the question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there were 97 ayes, 0 nays, and 3 members absent. Majority of members voting in the affirmative. The chair declares that bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4451, eliminating the requirement that otherwise qualified investment assets be located or installed at or within 2 miles of a pre-existing manufacturing facility.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 4460, relating to authorizing application of the manufacturing investment tax credit and the manufacturing property tax adjustment credit against personal income tax.
Are there objections to having this bill explained in lieu of having it read? If not, the chair recognizes the gentleman of 64th Douglas Householder to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The purpose of this legislation is to provide all taxpayers engaged in a manufacturing-based business equal opportunity to benefit from applying the manufacturing investment tax credit and the manufacturing tax adjustment credit against personal income tax, regardless of their business structure. Removing this limitation so that these credits benefit all 4 basic business structures, which are C corporations, S corporations, partnerships, and sole proprietorships, would be a tool that's available for the West Virginia Department of Economic Development could use to encourage potential investors to locate in West Virginia. That's the bill. I urge passage.
Question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Gentleman 30th, Douglas Bates.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hate to wear out my welcome here, but would the chair yield for a question? Yes. So do we have another freedom bill here?
This is freedom bill.
So is this the same?
This is the original freedom bill.
Is this the same tax credit we were talking about with the previous bill, or is it a different tax credit?
No, this is different. This is the manufacturing tax credit bill.
So it's a separate type of credit.
Yes.
And then, so it doesn't change the credit. All it does is expand the type of taxpayer that could qualify for it.
The gentleman's correct.
So under the existing statute, those that are structured as a pass-through entity, personal income tax, pay at the personal income tax level wouldn't be able to take advantage of this tax credit, but this now allows those that are formed in that form or fashion to do it, which they would be prohibited from before.
Yes, because the way the current code is, it only benefits C corporation, so the gentleman's correct, it expands it to the others.
Subject, other than that change, everything else is the same.
Everything else is the same.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question again is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on this question. There are 97 ayes, 0 nays, and 3 members absent. A majority of members voting in the affirmative. The chair declares that bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
House Bill 4460, relating to authorizing application of the Manufacturing Investment Tax Credit and the Manufacturing Property Tax Adjustment Credit against personal income tax.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4465, relating to the tax credit for apprenticeship training.
Are there objections to having this bill explained in lieu of having it read? If not, gentleman from the 27th, Doug Gearhart, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Committee substitute for House Bill 4465 would amend the provisions of the West Virginia Code relating to the tax credit for apprenticeship training. Current law restricts the credit to apprenticeship training in the construction trades. This bill would remove this restriction for tax years beginning on or after January 1, 2023. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Lady in the 41st. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on this question. There are 96 ayes, 0 nays, and 4 members absent. A majority of members voting in the affirmative. The chair declares that bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4465, relating to the tax credit for apprenticeship training.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4470, relating to consumer sales and service tax and use tax exemption for certain goods to be incorporated into a qualified new or expanded warehouse or distribution facility.
Are there objections to having this bill explained in lieu of having it read? No objections are heard. Gentleman from the 64th to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The bill expands the types of certain new or expanded warehouses and distribution facilities that are exempt from the state sales and use tax for their purchases of computers and computer software, primary material handling equipment, racking and racking systems and components thereof, building materials and tangible personal property installed into or directly used or consumed in the construction, addition, alteration, or improvement of a qualified new or expanded warehouse or distribution facility during the expansion period. Under current law, only otherwise qualified new or expanded warehouses and distribution facilities that will employ 300 or more West Virginia domiciled West Virginia residents as full-time employees once the expansion is complete are eligible for the exemption. This bill would reduce this threshold for eligibility for the tax exemption from 300 employees to 50 employees. That's the bill. I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? The lady in the 35th, Doug Young, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm not trying to outstay my welcome either. Will the chairman yield for just a question?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Why are we going from 300 to 50 jobs?
No. We're just expanding this to allow it for smaller distribution facilities to take advantage of this.
Okay.
If there's a smaller distribution facility, say you have a sheets distribution facility that only has 50 employees. Now they could they could conform to this law.
Gotcha. I read that wrong. Thank you so much. And what sort of facilities? You said computers, and then you said racking. What? Could you give me an example of what we're actually talking about?
In the warehouse industry, the racking systems, all that would be exempt from sales tax.
Any warehouse? Any sort of warehouse?
If you're a smaller distribution facility, yes. It's to expand to have new smaller distribution facilities to come into the state.
Cool beans. Is this a freedom bill?
It's another freedom bill. Last one was personal income tax. This is sales tax.
Awesome. It's Freedom Day, I think.
Today it is.
Thank you so much.
Lady in the fourth, Dr. Zukoff.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I'm all for incentives to encourage and bring new business in. Do we have any idea what this potentially could cost the state from our budget?
Now, it says $1,000.
$1,000? Not much of an incentive. Thank you.
Gentleman from the 30th, Douglas Bates.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once more to the breach. Yes. So this is use tax, not sales tax. So this is basically.
No, it's sales and use.
So, but it's not a tax you collect when you sell this equipment. So if I buy racking equipment as a business, then I have to pay 6% or 7% of a municipality on that purchase.
Right.
And so this would allow these manufacturers to go out and purchase this equipment, but not have to pay the additional 6 or 7%, depending upon where they're at. And it's existing facilities. It's not new facilities.
I mean, it can be new. I mean, it's all existing code now, but we're expanding it so smaller distribution facilities could apply.
Okay, so you don't have to create 50 jobs.
I mean, the way the law is written right now, for these distribution facilities, you have to have 300 or more employees.
Before they'd qualify the existing tax credit. Okay. Right. So these things are automated, smaller workforces.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman 16th, Doug at Linville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just real quick, just to follow up on my friend from the fourth's point. It's $1,000 simply just because that's how much it'll take the tax department to implement this. And I would remind the body that 100% of nothing is nothing. And if we take 0% of something, it's still nothing. So that's why it costs us absolutely nothing. But hopefully it will incentivize folks to bring their warehouse and distribution facilities here to the state of West Virginia. And I would urge passage.
Is there other debate on the bill? Does the gentleman wish to close debate on the bill? If not, the question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on this question. There are 97 ayes, 0 nays, and 3 members absent. A majority of members voting in the affirmative. The chair declares that bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4470 relating to consumer sales and service tax and use tax exemption for certain goods to be incorporated into a qualified new or expanded warehouse or distribution facility.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4489 require counties to post open positions on statewide job bank.
Question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? No objections are heard. Gentleman 27th, Delegate Ellington, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill amends a section of code that requires the State Board to establish and maintain a statewide job bank to assist the recruitment and reemployment of experienced professional personnel. This is a section that was enacted in 2001. The job bank currently is on the Department of Education's website, WVK-12 Education Job Bank. It includes a job seeker section for persons looking for employment to upload their personal information along with positions for which county boards of education are seeking applicants. Currently, use of the statewide job bank by county boards is optional. This bill requires the county boards then post the positions and compensation packages for which they are seeking applicants, and it also adds service and extracurricular personnel to positions required to be posted. Mr. Speaker, I urge passage of the bill, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Gentleman from the 16th, Doug at Linville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and like my friend, once more into the breach, dear friends. On this one, I'd like to hearken everybody back to special session 2019, which was the ed reform session. There was House Bill 193 offered. Chairman Ellington was lead sponsor on that bill. And the intent of the bill was to put out the total compensation package. We put forward, a fairly substantial benefits package. We've got PEIA, we've got paid time off, we've got all the various incentive packages, and it's about recruitment and retention. House Bill 193 passed unanimously in 2019 out of this chamber and out of the Senate and was signed by the governor. Unfortunately, its impact has been reasonably minimal because the counties generally do not post their jobs on the statewide job bank. And so the intent here is to make sure that when folks are comparing, the job offer that we can make in the state of West Virginia versus what they may be able to get either from another employer or from another state doing the same job, this would allow us hopefully to recruit and retain great educators, service personnel, and I urge passage. Thank you.
Gentleman to 66, Doug at Espinosa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the chairman yield?
Yes, sir.
So I recall this type of proposal being discussed previously, and I know some counties, I think perhaps even my county, had expressed some concern that this would result in duplicative work, that they would have to put it into their county system, but that system wouldn't necessarily interface with the state system, so they would have to basically enter twice. Was there any discussion in your committee during consideration of this that
we didn't think it would be an undue hardship, I don't think, but yeah, it would be a little bit duplicative. However, they still have to apply to the county. It wouldn't apply through the state, but it just gives the state the opportunity to have those on the site. So if someone out of state's looking to see that, instead of going through 55 different counties, they could at least see over a broad picture what's available in a particular region that they may be moving to.
Who's responsible for getting it on that state website? Is it the county district?
Yeah, the county would put it on. Okay. Yeah, that's all this is saying, is they're already putting it on their county website, just put it onto the state one, and they can work out the details on that.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman from the 2nd, Doug at DeSerio.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The chairman yield.
Yes, sir.
The state, can you tell me the difference between the statewide job bank, or will this go through Workforce West Virginia?
No, it doesn't go through Workforce West Virginia. The counties post their own jobs on their site. The state site is available, but it's been optional. Not every county's been posted on the state site. So all this bill is saying is go ahead and post your job openings on that too, so that people just accessing the state site could see what's available.
Do counties post with the job centers around?
They may. I don't know for sure on that. Yeah, I don't know if they do. I mean, they may. I don't think anything precludes them from doing so.
Yes, it just concerns me because in the Northern Panhandle, they're closing down 2 different facilities, one in Weirton, one in New Martinsville, and just scares me for our people in the Northern Panhandle. Thank you.
Gentleman 43rd, Doug Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would my friend, the chairman of education, yield?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Sir, a few questions. Do most counties, but not all, are already using this system? They're already putting the jobs. Most counties, would that be a correct assumption, but not all?
I don't know the exact number, so I'll agree that most probably do, right. But I don't know the number.
Agreed. And would you also agree that there is a large teacher shortage in this state of?
There is, and to answer part of your other question, I was told that there's only 159 positions posted on the state site.
Currently,
statewide.
Agreed. All right, thank you, sir. Colleagues, I want to give you a little bit of an idea behind this bill and why I support it. We're going to go back to way back when, like 2012, whenever I was looking for teaching jobs. things are a lot different between now and then. A lot more openings. It's really different, but it breaks it down. So when counties put their jobs on the K-12 job bank, whether it's English, whether it's social studies, whether it's math, you can click on those and it's listed. So if you have a certification in social studies, you can click on that and it will show you which counties have openings, and you can go to that county's website and apply for those jobs. And why this is important is if counties aren't posting those on the K-12 job bank, which gets hits from people all across the country if they're, if they're looking for a job, it helps tailor and really push you into that field. So that's why it's important, is for all of these counties to post these positions on the K-12 job bank. So I'm going to urge adoption of this bill. Thank you.
Question again before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, the question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on this question. There are 96 ayes, 1 nay, and 3 members absent. A majority of members voting in the affirmative. The chair declares that bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4489, require counties to post open positions on statewide job bank.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Are there further bills on third reading? If not, bills on second reading.
House Joint Resolution 102, clarifying that the policymaking and rulemaking authority of the State Board of Education is subject to legislative review, approval, amendment, or rejection.
Are there amendments? If not, the resolution will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4025, providing exemption to severance tax for severing rare earth elements and other critical minerals.
Are there amendments?
Delegate Howe moves to amend the bill on page 2, section 3C, line 21, after the word zinc and the comma, by striking the word and on page 2, section 3C, line 21, after the word zirconium and before the period, by inserting the words uranium, osmium, strontium, rhenium, potash, and bauxite.
Question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. Is there debate on the amendment? Chairman of 56, Delegate Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The purpose of this amendment is to sync it up with 2 other bills that are working through the system on rare earths and critical elements. I urge adoption.
Is there further debate on the amendment? If not, those in favor of adoption of the amendment, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. Chair declares that amendment adopted. Are there further amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced to third reading. Next bill on second reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4329 to clarify the definition of an interested person for purposes of the West Virginia Small Estate Act.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4331, West Virginia's Urban Mass Transportation Authority Act.
Lady in the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to postpone action 1 day.
Are there objections? Okay, no objections are heard. Action will be postponed 1 day. Next bill on second reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4562, relating generally to the suspension and dismissal of school personnel by board and the appeals process.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4578, relating to authorizing the superintendent of the state police to administer the Handle with Care program.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced. Are there further bills on second reading? If not, bills on first reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 445, modifying police and firemen's pension plans for trustees.
Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2910 to modify the allowable number of magistrate judges per county.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4077 provides certain classes of property protections from creditor collections.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4141, authorizing the Governor's Committee on Crime, Delinquency, and Correction to promulgate a legislative rule relating to law enforcement training and certification standards.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4242, authorizing the Division of Labor to promulgate a legislative rule relating to child labor.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4314 excludes solicitor from the definitions of investment advisor.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4338, reducing annual permit fee for each video lottery terminal owned or leased by a limited video lottery licensee.
Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4340, relating to maximizing the opportunity to recover anatomical gifts for the purpose of transplantation, therapy, research, or education.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4406, to establish the West Virginia Military Hall of Fame.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4430, relating to definitions of base salary and overtime pay for police and firemen pensions.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4433, providing that retirement benefits are not subject to execution.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4462, relating to deferred retirement option plan evaluations.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4583, clarifying the definition of incapacity so that incarceration in the penal system or detention outside of the United States may not be inferred as resulting in a lack of capacity to execute a power of attorney.
The bill will be advanced. Are there further bills on first reading? If not, chair is advised the clerk is in receipt of additional reports from standing committees. At this time, are there objections to returning to the third order of business for the purpose of receiving standing committee reports? If no objections are heard, the clerk will please report standing committee reports.
Your Committee on Banking and Insurance has had under consideration committee substitute for Senate Bill 262, relating generally to financial institutions engaged in boycotts of energy companies, and reports the same back with amendment with the recommendation that it do pass as amended, but that it first be referred to the Committee on Finance.
The report will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Banking, or excuse me, the Committee on Finance. Committee on Finance.
Your Committee on Banking and Insurance has had under consideration committee substitute for Senate Bill 505, updating laws on licensure and regulation of money transmitters, and reports the same back with the title amendment with the recommendation that it do pass as amended, but that it first be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
That report will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Your Committee on Banking and Insurance has had under consideration House Bill 4394 to reaffirm and enhance the workers' compensation exclusive remedy rule or doctrine, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass, but that it first be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
The report will be received. The bill will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary. Other standing committee reports? If not, leaves of absence. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For our colleagues, Delegates Boggs and Jay Kelly.
Are there objections to leaves of absence being granted? No objections are heard. Leaves of absence will be granted. Introductions? Introductions. Miscellaneous business. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move, subject to announcements and remarks by members, that the House adjourn until 11 a.m. Thursday, February 17th.
If the question is on the motion that, subject to announcements and remarks by members, the House stand adjourned at 11 a.m. tomorrow, Thursday the 17th. Are there announcements?
Yes.
Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Rules will meet at 10:45, Thursday, February 17th, behind the chamber. Yes.
Gentleman from the 10th, Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Finance will meet today at 3 p.m. in the House Finance Committee room. The agenda is posted. Thank you, sir.
Gentleman from the 32nd, Fast.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Judiciary will meet today at 3 p.m. in the House Judiciary Committee room. The agenda is posted. Also, your Committee on Judiciary will meet tomorrow at 3 p.m. in the House Judiciary Committee room. The agenda will be posted. And lastly, be reminded that the House Judiciary Committee will host a public hearing on House Bill 4394 tomorrow at 9 a.m. in the House chamber. Registration to speak during the hearing will open at 8:30 a.m.
Gentleman from the 50th, Doug Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I got two announcements. Tomorrow in the chamber at 10 a.m., there will be a citation presentation to the family of Sergeant Lanny Perdue, who was a member of the Capitol Police and passed away with COVID last year. All delegates are invited. Also, today at 5 p.m. in the Government Organization Room, there will be a Health Freedom Forum, and all delegates are welcome. Thank you.
Gentleman from the 51st, Doug Statler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Education will meet today at 3:30 in the Education Committee room. The agenda is posted. Republican committees will caucus in the Chairman's office at 2:30. Tomorrow morning, Education will meet again in the morning at 9:30 in the Education Committee room. The agenda will be posted.
Gentleman 15.
And caucus, the Republican members will caucus at 9.
Gentleman 15, Doug Foster.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Government Organization will meet today at 3 p.m. in the Government Organization Committee room, and your Committee on Government Organization will also meet tomorrow at 3 p.m. in the Government Organization Committee room, and the agenda will be posted.
Gentleman 32nd, Doug Fast.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. I failed to mention that the Republican members of the Judiciary Committee will caucus in the Chairman's office at 2:45 today.
Gentleman the 8th, Doug Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Energy and Manufacturing will meet tomorrow, Thursday, February 17th, at 2 p.m. in the House Judiciary Committee room. The agenda will be posted.
Gentleman 45th, Doug Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Political Subdivisions will meet tomorrow morning, February 17th at 9 a.m. in the House Judiciary Committee room. The agenda will be posted. Thank you.
The gentleman 7th, Doug Barnhart.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon. So your Committee on Workforce Development will meet today at 2 p.m. in GovOrg. The agenda has been posted. Additionally, Republican members will caucus immediately following the floor session.
The gentleman from the 65th, Doug Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Select Committee on Tourism and Economic Diversity will meet tomorrow, the 17th, at 5 p.m. in GovOrg, and the agenda will be posted.
Gentleman from the 11th, Doug Keaton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. By way of announcement, our colleague from the 65th, Delegate Clark, is celebrating a 50th birthday today, so please be deliberate in wishing him a happy birthday, my friend.
Gentleman from the 48th, Doug Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Reminder, your Committee on Fire Departments and Emergency Medical Services will meet immediately following the session in the House Education Committee room. The agenda is posted.
Gentleman from the 22nd, Doug Maynard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Technology and Infrastructure will meet today at 5 o'clock in the House chamber. Also, your Republican members will caucus in the Chairman's office. Thank you. 5 o'clock in this chamber. 4:30.
Gentleman second, Doug DeSario.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Due to time restraints, the West Virginia AFL-CIO Labor Caucus will be canceled today, but there is lunch outside GovOrg for members of the caucus. Thank you.
Are there further announcements? If not, remarks by members. Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 65th, Doug Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Folks, I wanted to take a little bit of time and talk about an important bill to me, and I think an important bill to all of the children in the state of West Virginia. It's House Bill 4325, Child Online Privacy Protection Act. Currently, right now, it's sitting over in Judiciary. I've spoken with the Judiciary Chair, and we're trying to work this thing out. But I wanted to educate everybody in the room about this bill. So, as you all know, the internet came about in the mid-1990s. In 1996, Section 230 of the Federal Code came about, which regulated the internet. In 1998, Child Online Privacy Protection Act, which is a federal law, came into play. And what that said is that if an internet company gathers any information from a child under the age of 13, shares any of that information, or passes that information to another parenting company of themselves, they must get parent permission to do that. Well, at that time, there were 7 million unique websites throughout the world. Currently, right now, there's over 1 billion, with a new unique website being generated every single second. Child Online Privacy Protection Act has never been changed. Now, if you look at the bill, it's kind of scary. It's got a lot of big words in there that I don't even know. And that's because it's a federal bill. If we had already adopted Child Online Privacy Protection Act, put it in our code somewhere and said, okay, we follow along the suit, this bill would be simple. It would be a simple strike and insert. And all it would do is change the age from 13 to 18. What my bill does is takes the federal law and strengthens it for our kids in this state, moving that age limit from 13 to 18. Now, many of us have kids, and we give them phones and laptops and iPads. And what do? I buy the phone, I register the phone in my name. Keep in mind that every single piece of technology has its own unique IP address. I register it in my name, I give it to my child, I then turn around and I buy a product that monitors what they do on that phone, monitors the websites they go to, and it sends me a report. Okay, so I got to do all this stuff. Now, if this bill passes in our state, here's what happens now. I buy the phone, I give it to my child, I register the phone to my child, who's under the age of 18. Now what has to happen? All of your websites, all of your social media companies, they have to reach to me, the parent, and say, do I have permission to allow your child onto my website? Do I have your permission to allow my child on our social media site? We all know Megan's Law was passed by the governor, and we all know that during this process, she went to a social media site to learn how to nearly kill herself. I want to tell every single parent in the state of West Virginia, we don't want your child going online and learning how to hurt themselves. I want every single parent to know that they are protected. Now, your social media sites, your iPad companies, your phone companies, they're going to come back and say, wow, this is a lot, you know. You're taking a federal law and you're making it stronger. Well, why hasn't the federal government done it? Money. Simple put. They've been lobbied not to do this. Are we asking the social media companies to do anything more than they already do? Nope. Because keep in mind, they already have to do this if the child's 13 or less. Are we asking the cellular service company to do anything more? No. Because they already have to do this if the child is 13 or less. Does the cellular service have to set up a geofencing? Yes, it does. But guess what? That's already in play. Keep in mind, if anybody in this room has any kind of a fun habit of betting online, the geofencing is already there. It's already in your phone. We're not asking them to do anything more than they already have to do by the federal law, except tell them in our state, 18 and below. So if you want to protect your kids and you want to help me protect your kids, please, let's move this bill forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman to 32nd, Doug Fast.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will be brief. We've heard some great announcements this session. Good things that are coming to West Virginia. Nucor, over $1 billion investment, approximately 800 jobs. Green Motor Corporation, hundreds of jobs, multi-millions in investments. The medical facility in Morgantown, great investment, more jobs. We just heard the other day, Omnibus Building Technologies moving into Bluefield, $40 million facility investment, 150 to 300 jobs. And I've heard a lot of thank yous to like the West Virginia Development Authority and things of that nature, but I really wanted to point something out and ask for your participation. There's one common thread in all of this that I don't think we've given proper credit to. We pray every day before we open our session, asking God to bless our state, to be upon us as legislators, and to be upon our state. And I believe that this is a direct blessing. These jobs are huge. These are the things that will keep our children here and give them a place to work. And so I am breaking rank just a little bit and asking if you're willing that you would stand and let's give God a round of applause for the blessings of these jobs and these great announcements.
The gentleman from 36, Doug Rowe, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a quick update. We haven't heard anything from the Senate yet on, at least they've not sent us a bill on House Bill 4007. Now, you remember that's the bill that cut the personal income tax. And unfortunately, for somebody who's making about $25,000 a year, their tax break is $7. In fact, you've got to go up to about $55,000 before you even get $10 on it. For folks who have incomes above $60,000 currently, they pay 6.5% of their income. So if you jump up to somebody making $400,000 or so, you end up with about $3,800 in tax savings. Now that's a real tax savings, but I'd point out that if you divide $3,800 by 7, you need 542 people to match what that one person is going to get on their tax return. We'll see what happens when it comes back over from the Senate, and I assume that it will. I'd point out that this cost is $265 million this year, and it's going to be $265 million next year, and the year after that, to give a $7 tax cut to the average citizen, and particularly the people. It's really harsh for the people who are on fixed incomes and pensions and Social Security. Those folks really aren't getting any benefit from this bill whatsoever. Or if it is, it's pretty insignificant. What $7 gets you, maybe a part of a can of coffee, a jar of peanut butter for the whole year. So it's pretty sad when we look at it from that standpoint. And remember that this is a tax cut that's going to be in perpetuity, so it will cost $265 million. It was pointed out that we're probably going to have some excess revenues this year and maybe next year, but this represents about 25% of this year's excess revenues. And they're not going to be around, well, maybe next year, maybe not next year. But it's been the influx of federal monies that has produced the booming and general revenues that we've enjoyed. So I just bring that to your attention. I'm very interested to see what the Senate will do with the bill. Perhaps they will reverse some of the harshness that's in the bill that we sent over to them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman 28, Doug Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to first of all thank the membership here for voting for a resolution that came through today. It was number 56, and it names a simple little old bridge in a simple little old county after an individual by the name of Donald Wheeler. But there's more to Donald's story than just naming a bridge because he served in the military. Donald went in the Navy as a 17-year-old so he could provide an income for his mother. In those days, in 1959, there was no welfare programs as we know them today that would nearly support a family of 11 children to a single mom, and she was a single mother with 11 children. So he goes in the Navy so he can send her as his dependent an allotment check each month. Unfortunately, less than 2 years before his service, in less than 2 years, he fell from a ship while working and got hung up and drowned before anybody could save his life. And we're naming this bridge after Donald Wheeler. But there's more to his mother's story than there is to Donald's story now. She went on and raised the rest of those children. They all become professional people. Most of them are still living today, and we are honored here in West Virginia to have had one of her grandsons serve us in the National Guard, serve us as a rise officer, or I believe that was the title, and today one of her grandsons is the colonel of the West Virginia Department of Natural Resources officers. And so there's more to these stories that we have on these bridge namings and so on that we really think sometimes. But I think about that woman, and we were her neighbor. I grew up just next door to them. And I think how hard she struggled to get her remaining 10 children through school and out on their own, on her own. And I just think of what she would be so proud of today, and we should be proud of women like her. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Lady from the 24th, Doug Mazzocchi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm happy to share that I just celebrated another year of being a United States citizen. And I will always remember, thank you. I will always remember when I studied for the 100 questions for the citizens test. Questions of history, important events of the United States and of the world. The main focus is always the power and the struggles of the people. We are representing people. They petition to get help to alleviate struggles. They have a problem. They want it resolved. So I looked up the right to petition government, and it says, the right to petition grants people not only the freedom to stand up and to speak out against injustices they feel they are occurring, but also grants the power to help change those injustices. It's a fundamental freedom of all Americans, and it's documented in the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. 5 freedoms: religion, free speech, free press, assembly, and petition. So back to the people. They have ideas, and they go through the established process, and it becomes law. So it's the people who took power and overpowered the problem. The people sent us here to be mediators between being powerless and having power. We changed the law one by one to make life better for the future, so the things that they endured will not happen again. Another definition is a petition is the right to present requests to the government without punishment or reprisal. This is guaranteed in the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. So I have the right as an American citizen, and being elected, I am here sent by the people. So ultimately, it's the people not the elected officials or appointed officials. It's the people that have the power, and they petitioned. My people petitioned. They want freedom. We laughed about it today. We have freedom bills. They petitioned. They want freedom. Are we for freedom, or are we for letting the government decide our every move? I am here for the people. We all are here for the people. And that's why we, as one branch of the legislative body, it is our duty, we must exercise the people's will to alleviate the people's struggles under the emergency power rule. May not be for this one, but for sure for the next one. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are there further remarks by members? The gentleman first, Leggett McGee, is recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to remind everyone that we are now under, I think it's 725 days of a declaration of emergency, which is essentially transformed into one-man rule. And we've had now one session, potentially a special session, that didn't go through, and now about halfway through a second session, which we have taken no action to remedy this. So this concept that has evolved includes, basically one man's total discretion as to the scope of his power, but also complete discretion as to the duration of his own power. And that power includes changing laws, suspending laws, altering laws, creating new laws. I mean, sometimes I wonder why we're even debating some of these statutes, because we can just go downstairs and have him do that for us. So, such a concept that I just outlined, I mean, it's total arbitrary power by one man to change laws and do these sweeping executive orders is completely antithetical to a constitutional order. It's probably the most egregious violation of a constitutional order in the history of this state government. And we've done nothing about it. And because of the scope, size, and magnitude of such an egregious violation, I believe our oaths of office entails doing something about it, at least. The oaths of office that we're supposed to be loyal to, first and foremost, entails doing something about such a concept that is entirely antithetical to the very oath we swore, the concepts that we swore to. Just going to read you something real quick. This is from, I think, a year and a half ago. This one I pulled up by the Associated Press, but it was basically on the front page of every newspaper in the state, and the national news picked up on it. And it said, Governor of West Virginia admits that executive order may be unconstitutional. Republican governor on Tuesday responded to a reporter asking about constitutional concerns about his order that has threatened criminal charges if people from areas in the state hit by the virus don't quarantine for 2 weeks. He also says the state police will watch roads and conduct home checks to make sure people comply with his executive order. He was asked by a reporter, "Isn't this unconstitutional?" And he said, "Yes, but I'm going to do it anyway." Now, I don't know if it was unconstitutional, but that's the first time in 10 years I've been in state government that I've ever heard an actual elected official admit that he's going to violate the Constitution. Like, I've seen plenty of people propose things that 99% of the time I can tell, hey, that's unconstitutional. but they've always defended it as being constitutional. I've never heard of anyone admitting in front of God and country on camera, yeah, it's probably unconstitutional, but don't worry about that. I'm going to do it anyway. This is what we're left with here. Okay? And all of our concerns about trying to get favors from certain folks and trying to get, you know, some of our pet project bills through, I got plenty of those too, trust me. They have to, by necessity of an oath we swore to God to defend, take a back seat. We have to check this sort of arbitrary, whimsical power that's been going on for over 2 years. Otherwise, it's going to become ingrained into our system. Okay? Good men and women need to stand up and say, enough is enough. We need to abide by the rule of law. It has nothing to do with personalities. It's the idea that we all should be loyal to first and foremost. The idea that what we swear to reflects a certain truth that are universal principles. That's what we should be loyal to first, not personalities. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
Do we have other remarks? If not, then the question before the House is on the motion that the House stand adjourned at 11 a.m. tomorrow. Those in favor will please say aye. Those opposed will please say no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The House is adjourned at 11 a.m. tomorrow.